say as time goes by?
Oh, I can't remember it myself. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
All right, so welcome everybody. All right, let's today, if you're here yesterday or if you went back and watched yesterday, you would have noticed how like on the lower energy scale I was today. Luckily, that is not today. So let's do the intro really quickly. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. Here we talk news, talk politics, talk current events, play video games sometimes, just kind of hang out for the most part. And today is a day like no other. There is news, there's all sorts of stuff, but more than anything, we're gonna kind of get right into kind of the fun half content. Yesterday I was just feeling really exhausted by the time I got on the stream, and because of that, we didn't really watch a whole. We made it through some stories, but we didn't really get to much of what I had planned out. I apologize for that, but we are going to make up for that in the form of doing a whole bunch of the fun half stuff today, along with maybe some video games. I haven't 100% decided yet. We might pick back up with Democracy. I'm not 100% sure. That being said, I just thought about this. What is what did I put us in? What did I put us in? What are we in today? Oh, we're in politics. Okay, cool. That sounds good. All right, so River has joined us. Hello, River, come here. Okay, she doesn't listen to me. Anyway, so how should we start this? Okay. So over the weekend, there was, once again, another mass shooting in the United States. This one costing us the lives of 3 people at a Dollar General because Nazis unfortunately live among us. I don't really have a better way of saying that. Luckily, we don't have to have really much of a debate this time, since he drew swastikas on his AR-15. And since he's a white boy, we don't have to have the conversation of can non-white people be white supremacists and be Nazis. That's all well and good. I want to start off with what we didn't end up getting to, which was I want to take a look at Governor Ron DeSantis, current presidential hopeful running in the Republican primary. Assumed runner-up to Donald Trump's, Donald Trump in the Republican primary. I want to take a look at him speaking in Jacksonville on the shooting. I believe this was from either Sunday afternoon or Sunday or early Monday. I don't quite remember which day, but let's go take a look. What are you doing, Kat? What are you doing? Why are you tangling yourself in the things? How's it going? Anyway, let's go take a look, shall we?
We're going to ask the governor if he would come now and bring remarks.
Oh yeah, I forgot to add these. So Ron DeSantis right now, wants to look very much like somebody who's in control of his state, somebody who can, respond to a crisis, somebody who's going to, be there, be ready. To be a real leader. I'm not sure this goes the way that he would like it to go. Let's see. Let me turn this.
Well, thank you for doing this.
No, let's
I
not
want to
turn it.
just say to the councilwoman, I got you. Don't worry about it. We've already been looking to identify funds to be able to help make sure there's adequate security for Edward Waters College. We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
Man.
Okay, listen, y'all. Let me tell you.
Wait, no. I want his whole little speech. No. I want his whole little speech. This was a longer video. I thought this would have the speech in it. Jacksonville. Let's see. Where's like the full? This is the same video. Okay, no, that's the same video. Where's the Ron DeSantis responds to Florida shooting? No, I want to see the I want to see his opening because he does have some God damn it. 56. Oh, this sounds like better. Not better audio. Although this is a good set for the crowd. Okay, so I guess we don't really have. Okay. Either way, that's fine.
We're going to ask the governor if he would come now and bring remarks.
Oh, maybe this one has it. Okay. I remember one of these.
Thank you for doing this. I want to just say to the councilwoman, I got you. Not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
And okay, so he mentions that, they're going to allocate some funds to the college and that they're going to, make sure that some adequate security is put back in place. And what I think it's like good to remember is that really is the only solution that Republicans writ large and people like Ron DeSantis really have for people. That is the only solution that they have for people is, oh, we'll throw some money at, you know, some security. And in the state of Florida, there are pretty loose gun laws, from my understanding. And you know, we know that the shooter bought his firearms completely legally, no problems, getting a hold of them, and ended up carrying out this random act of violence. Shortly, or I don't know about shortly, but you know, with the firearms that he legally purchased. So the question always becomes like, all right, well, what's security gonna do? And I spoke a little bit about this yesterday. Again, I was in a bit of a fog yesterday, just through, you know, reasons. And the big question is, did the shooter originally enters onto a college campus, an HBCU, and is then, you know, flagged by security, and, you know, in their attempt to, you know, approach him, he ends up like running off, right? And some might say like, oh, see, if we just like have security literally at the front of every single store, that will deter every single shooter. Quite frankly, that's not going to deter every single shooter. If you put security at the door of every single public space, they're just going to outfit themselves better, legally, by the way, because you're not going to touch gun laws, to respond to those people. And quite frankly, what we will turn this into is safe spaces that can afford it and unsafe spaces that can't. Where the decision for what is and what isn't a safe public place will end up being that based on income. Will be based on what the locality can afford to spend on security.
Okay, listen, y'all. Let me tell you, we finna put parties aside, cause it ain't about parties today. A bullet don't know a party, so don't get me started.
What is this? Jacoby Pittman, Jacksonville City Council District. Oh, okay. So I was kind of wondering. I was a bit curious because I hadn't seen who this was identified. I was kind of curious if this was a Republican representative or a Democratic one. Let's be really clear here. It's fairly obvious why you would want to quell the crowd when the governor of your state is offering you money and aid to make the community safer. You know, allegedly. They're offering you something.
Okay, Jacoby is nice, but Ann is not. Now, if the governor wanted to come here and he bringing gifts to my community, y'all know I'm taking the gifts, because we've been through enough already, and I don't want to go through no more. Now, y'all just be quiet just a minute and let the governor say what he gonna say, and we gonna get this party started. You hear me? Okay.
I've been in touch with Dr. Faison. We're going to be announcing some stuff tomorrow morning, which I think will help not only with security, but also an attempt to help these families. The fact of the matter is, you know, you had a major league scumbag come from Clay County up here, and what he did is totally unacceptable in this.
Now let's think about this for a minute. What does Ron DeSantis plan on doing about these sorts of people, right? He's going to say, oh, we're going to put security up. Well, security can't be everywhere all at once, right? Oh, we're going to send some money to the HBCU so they can put some more cameras up. They can, maybe they can put up a big barbed wire fence or something. I don't fucking know. But is any of that going to solve? We always hear from Republicans that to solve gun violence, it's not the guns, we need to solve mental health. But do you notice that there isn't any solution here that's geared towards actually stopping this stuff? How all the solutions are all about just responding and hardening our spaces, which again, will all like, it's very similar to, people talk about the border wall. Show me what's the old phrase? Show me a 12-foot wall, I'll show you a 13-foot ladder. And the same goes for private security on college campuses, at retail stores, at really any kind of just private security. Your regular private security outfit in your local neighborhood, they're only equipped for so much. And all some psychopath has to do is dedicate himself and enough of his money and resources to to go out and buy enough gear to handle that. And then, then they're done. That's all they have to do. They just have to outfit themselves a little bit more. They can always outpace whatever the security has in terms of safety measures and deterrence. And this is why he gets booed, because there is no long-term solution. There is a response that will make some people feel a bit better for a couple weeks, but this isn't going to stem the rise in this stuff. This isn't going to stop any of these shooters. Targeting some of the propaganda that this person almost certainly was consuming on the internet isn't part of the prescription to fix this problem. When we're talking about I think when we're talking about the prevalence of anti-Semitic, of racist, of bigoted content on the internet, we're talking about a front that the Republican Party has no answer to and has no interest in actually solving. Ron DeSantis is not talking about spending money on mental health organizations or even on mental health services. Ron DeSantis is not talking about using his abilities as governor to investigate the, again, websites he almost assuredly frequented to to get some of this stuff in this guy's head. None of this is going to fix anything. And it's why they just throw some money at it. They just go, "Oh, here, take some money and get yourself some body armor." And that's enough. And don't bother me after that. That's all. That's the only solution that they're comfortable with. The only solution that they're interested in is, as long as somebody can make money selling you armor, selling you ammo, selling you resources, security resources, that's, they're happy with that. They don't want to solve the underlying problems.
State of Florida.
And everyone,
we are not going to let people be targeted based on their race. They know the kind of rhetoric that a guy like Ron DeSantis, and we are going to do what we need to do is to make sure that evil. Like, this is the same state that wanted to put in their textbooks and in their lesson plans that slaves learn skills. There were some benefits to the ownership of black people in this country. This is somebody who is, obviously is not openly going out there and, trying to, appear as racist as he is, but somebody who certainly wants to dog whistle and certainly is favored by people like the shooter in Jacksonville. Does not triumph in the state of Florida. And that means we are going to work with Edward Waters so that they have whatever security they need. In Florida, we've already given a lot of money to Jewish day.
And keep in mind, this was a Dollar General shooting. The shooter went from a college and then just decided, one or two people stopped me. I didn't feel like going through all that. They just drove down to the local Dollar General and executed some people. That's all it really took. And let's be clear, if that Dollar General had security, you just roll to the next one that doesn't have security. There is no stopping this. Somebody like worst case scenario for the shooter, he goes down to some park and just lets off. Like, there's just people like this are just going to find, eventually will just land on whatever group of people that they want to hurt and that they want to do violence on. There is no amount of security that's going to deter them. They'll just come a different day. They'll just replant. They'll do whatever it is they got to do. They've already dedicated themselves to this stuff. And you either have to have the police or FBI or somebody investigating this kind of online activity instead of finding it later. Or you need to put some real barriers up between them and the firearms that they use to carry out these crimes.
Schools, because they've been targeted with anti-Semitism. Well, let me tell you this. You are not going to target HBCUs in the state of Florida and get away with it. We're going to hold you accountable. We're not going to let it happen. And we thank what everybody's done, TK, the mayor, and just know that the state of Florida stands with the community. Help is on the way. God bless you all.
And I think it says a lot that, like, this is the response. We'll send you some money, pay for some security, and that's kind of it. That's kind of the only thing that they're interested in. It's the only solution that they'll accept is what's it called? Is just the we'll just throw some money at it, and that'll be perfectly fine. But I also want to take a look at, because I noticed there was this shooting was not shocking to me, very quietly covered by a lot of the right-wing media that is pretty popular online. Ben Shapiro put out a little 10-minute segment out of his 40-minute show, but Candace Owens didn't talk about it. And this was yesterday. They might have covered it earlier today. I'm not sure. But, as of Monday, the story broke, I think, on Saturday, if I remember correctly. Ben Shapiro talked for about 10 minutes. Matt Walsh skipped the show that day. Michael Knowles skipped the show, didn't talk about it. Candace Owens didn't talk about it. So it was interesting to see the disinterest in a shooting that led to the death of 3 people, especially considering how interested they all were to cover the Nashville shooter because they were trans. How often did we, how long did we spend, did these guys spend on that shooting compared to this one? So let's kind of take a look at our Wunderkind, our little genius boy, Ben Shapiro. And the reason why I'm focusing on Shapiro is I want you to really think about this for a minute. 3 people were shot in public at a Dollar General in Jackson, Florida. Ron DeSantis, goes down, gives a, quite frankly, pretty, wrote it on the way over there kind of speech. Jogged off after that, running for president, doesn't seem super interested in the story. And this is what Ben Shapiro is really, sorry, I actually need to look up something real quick. This is the angle, I suppose, that he was interested in. The thing that stuck out to him. So let's go take a look, shall we?
There was this terrible shooting in Jacksonville, Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis went to the site of the shooting to talk with the community. Ron DeSantis has paused his campaign because there are a bunch of issues in the state of Florida, particularly this giant storm that is bearing down on the Gulf Coast. According to Politico, he canceled campaign events this week as a major storm bears down on the state, and also in the aftermath of this horrific racist shooting in Jacksonville, which we'll get to momentarily.
So we kind of understand this, right? Off the bat, what is he really interested in talking about? Horse race, the politics. How often do you always hear from these guys? Oh, why are we politicizing this shooting? Why are we making it about politics? Why are we doing this, doing that? Do you think if this was if this was some white kids getting shot by by a racist black man, do you think this would just be, let's talk about Ron DeSantis's campaign. Let's frame this in a way that's not really about the shooting and more or less about the electoral aspirations of the governor of the state.
DeSantis said During a Sunday news conference, he's going to remain in Florida in the coming days because Tropical Storm Idalia is expected to become a hurricane and make landfall along the Gulf Coast later this week. He says, we're locked in on this. We're going to get the job done. I'm here. He was slated to campaign in South Carolina on Monday. Probably, I assume Casey will be taking his place at some of those events. DeSantis also went to a vigil on Sunday night for a shooting that left 3 people dead in Jacksonville on Saturday before the gunman killed himself. DeSantis began a Sunday news conference by condemning the shooting. Here was Ron DeSantis showing up at a vigil over the weekend, and a bunch of idiots started shouting.
So let's be clear. The community, because I really love this. Do you notice how, like, Ben Shapiro takes this tone that these people in this community should be grateful for their governor, their representative, to come down and speak to them? Do you notice the kind of, like, arrogant, the patronizing, arrogant, quite frankly, let's be honest, racist, framing and the way that Ben talks about this? It's kind of evident that Ben Shapiro doesn't give a shit about 3 people who got shot at a Dollar General. What he cares about, what Ben Shapiro is actually interested in, is the treatment of Ron DeSantis when Ron DeSantis does the barest of bare fucking minimum for this black community. And to Ben Shapiro, they should be grateful for that. They should shut the fuck up and be grateful that Ron DeSantis even showed up.
Shouting at him because supposedly the governor of the state is not supposed to show up in solidarity with communities that are afflicted by white supremacist mass killings. I'm so confused why you would shout at somebody over this. In any case, here was DeSantis, and the hero of this particular story is a Democrat council member named Jacoby Pittman, who steps in here and basically tells the protesters, shut up, we're all on the same side of this one.
You see? And his hero of the story is the person who wags their finger at the community who is dissatisfied with Ron DeSantis's, not just his, his governing of the state, but his, again, was that some rousing speech? Was that some, was that some kind of impressive show of leadership, that speech that we saw? No. That was a rather, 2-3 minutes tops? Little speech about they're not gonna get away from this and we're gonna send you money to whatever, so you can buy some security and, better days next time or something. That was a pathetic speech. It really was. It wasn't impressive. It wasn't powerful. It wasn't heartfelt. It was just the speech you give when you have to tell people, when you have to seem like you give a shit and you don't. And the hero to Ben Shapiro is the person who wants to secure resources for their community, having to go down there and, quite frankly, have to stick up for Ron DeSantis, somebody who I have no doubt she probably disagrees with on almost every single political issue, but also somebody who recognizes that this is Ron DeSantis's Florida. Loose gun regulations, a disinterest in teaching African-American history in this country, certainly a prominence or a history of dog whistling to racists, a fascist who, would like to have a registry of books that are or are not appropriate for public consumption. At the end of the day, this is the person who Ben Shapiro wants to highlight, the person he wants to venerate, is the person who wags their finger at that community who's dissatisfied with Ron DeSantis. That's why. Because that's worse than the 3 people who have been killed.
We are not going to allow these
When it comes to times of actual crisis, everybody is on the same side. The beautiful things I will say about living in Florida, and this is why there are DeSantis Democrats as well in the state of Florida, is that
let's be really clear. If you're a DeSantis Democrat, you're just a Republican.
Florida, when it comes to times of actual crisis, everybody is on the same side. By the way, that is the nature of what a community should be, is when there's a crisis, all this stuff goes to the wayside. The fact that there are people who are protesting when this sort of stuff happens, and DeSantis is not responsible in any way for this. His response has not been lackluster. It's not as though he went no comment and then went for a week on the beach while all of this sort of stuff happened. Like, this was absolutely apolitical. Good for this city councilwoman for
Yep. And again, how is it not Ron DeSantis? This is his state. These are the gun laws that he's passed and he's allowed to stand on the books. The idea that this is apolitical is bullshit, because the shooter's motivations were not apolitical. Those were quite political. And the response, the fact the response has been so, yeah, we'll make sure to send some money and I'll talk to the sheriff and we'll make sure that he has the resources that he needs, and we'll make sure that our spaces are safe. Again, it is lackluster. It is bullshit. But for Ben Shapiro and for conservatives, quite frankly, they don't really think there should be more of a response. I think they think that that is exactly all that needed to be said on that. That there isn't more to be done. And that certainly Ron DeSantis and his administration and the way in which that he's run Florida has nothing to do with the fact that a fucking Nazi ends up, radicalizing within the state, buying firearms legally within the state, and then executing 3 people within the state. Nowhere in that does Ron DeSantis or Ben Shapiro think, it's probably, there's a common denominator here. We might want to make sure that everything's on the up and up in our state here. But nope. We'll just send you more money so you can buy some private security. That's all.
for doing that. Believe it or not, there are members of Trump's campaign who are cheering on all of this nonsense. The people who are protesting. Laura Loomer, predictably enough, who is desperate to be Donald Trump's press secretary.
Also, do you notice it's been 2.5 minutes and we've just been talking about the politics around this?
Which for entertainment value would be very, very high, I will say. She, of course, was celebrating people yelling at Ron DeSantis for being terrible enough to show up at this.
Laura Loomer
at this
really
particular
making
event.
enemies of the
And
right.
I'm glad
now.
he was booed. He is disingenuous. Just an absurdity, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Like, I don't think that speech was really all that. I don't think that was, I don't think that speech took a lot of effort there. But it kind of does seem like Ben. I haven't paid too much attention, but it does seem like the Daily Wire has been pulling for DeSantis pretty much since like the start of the primary. But I have noticed that it doesn't seem like they're willing to go after Trump very much quite yet. They're willing to just kind of call balls and strikes as as slanted as they can for Donald Trump, but while leaving the door open of like, hey, but if this doesn't work out, we have DeSantis. They're probably still making they probably honestly have the same hope that DeSantis does, that Trump has to drop out and then they can all just coalesce behind Ronnie Boy. Will that happen? I don't know.
She said, while Governor DeSantis was heckled at a vigil for the victims of a shooting in Jacksonville, Florida Dollar General today, comments he made back in July about Floridas are coming back to bite him in the ass. Come on. Like, seriously, come on. Ridiculous kind of stuff. But DeSantis is doing what he's supposed to do. He's
And also the people
Florida.
living in
He's
that
back
state
in
know the
state,
stuff he's saying.
and he is going to be there overseeing whatever happens with regard to
What a
this
great
Florida
candidate.
hurricane.
What a great candidate.
Is your self
Oh, nope. And now we got an ad. And then, oh boy. God damn, dude. They have so many ads. How far were we into that? We weren't that far into the video. Like, when did the ad start? When did the ad start? Like what? Around the 3-minute mark? Yeah, something like that. Around the 3-minute mark, and we're already like pushing
Helix
past 5
Better
minutes.
Sleep starts right now. So head on over again.
Oh my
to
God.
helixsleep.com/Ben and use.
Enough.
Meanwhile, it is worthwhile noting here that, again, in the state of Florida, Florida is a fascinating and complex state. I know because I now live here. I'm a resident. And, this particular shooting is obviously, it was motivated by white supremacy. According to the Wall Street Journal, authorities in Jacksonville, Florida, identified a local 21-year-old Sunday as a white gunman who shot and killed 3 black victims at a Dollar General store before killing himself. An attack local and federal officials said was racially motivated. The gunman then shot himself. He was carrying a handgun and a military-style semi-automatic rifle with swastikas marked on it. According to the police, the Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters said this was pretty obviously motivated by hatred of black people.
Our community is grappling to understand why this atrocity occurred.
And we saw a bit of this. Well, we can actually play it. I'm fine with playing it.
I urge us all not to look.
Oh, also, this is a really small detail. I'm going to do this so you guys can see it. This is a really small detail, but pay attention, especially to Fox News. You'll notice that Fox News has a habit of, when it's a white shooter, they will simply say 3 people killed in Jacksonville shooter. But then when it's if it's a black person committing a crime, they will either identify them by race or identify them by name. You'll kind of notice that a little bit. It's a interesting trend that I've seen it before, where when it's a white shooter, it's kind of a bit more obscured. So when people are flipping channels, it's like, oh, just another shooter, whatever. But whenever it's black, when it's black people who are committing crimes, killing, whatever it might be. If you commit a crime and you're black, on Fox News, they'll make sure to identify you as such. But if you're white, especially if it's a racially motivated crime, we might, maybe we forgot to put that in the chyron.
Said this was pretty obviously motivated by black people.
Our community is grappling to understand why this atrocity occurred. I urge us all not to look for sense in a senseless act of violence. There's no reason or explanation that we'll ever account for the shooter's decisions and actions. His sickening ideology is not representative of the values of this Jacksonville community that we all love so much. We are not a community of hate. We stand united with the good and decent people of this city. We reject this inexcusable violence. And this agency will not rest until this investigation is complete and every available avenue of accountability has been exhausted.
Okay, it is perfectly worthwhile to talk about the ideology of the shooter. The shooter did not have a criminal history, but in 2016 was named in a domestic disturbance call. In 2017, had to be put on a 72-hour hold for a mental health evaluation. I will point out at this point that whenever there's a white supremacist shooting, we know the motives like right away. And whenever there is a pretty obviously motivated anti-Christian shooting, say in Nashville, Tennessee, just to take a quick example, we still don't have the manifesto of that shooter. And it has been how many months? Since.
Whoa. Okay. So this is wonderful. This is exactly what I mean. Do you notice that he's not really interested in talking about the ideology of this shooter? Do you notice that he's not interested in actually interrogating the thought processes of like his Nazi ideology and white supremacy? Do you notice that the only thing he's interested in, the only reason he brings up the ideology of this person is so that he can then turn it back to, but what about the Nashville shooter? And let's be clear, the only reason he brings up the Nashville shooter is, again, because they were trans. That's it. That's the only reason. That's the entirety for the reason. Because, like, at the end of the day, these guys don't have an interest in stemming this stuff in their communities. These far-right influencers, these far-right YouTube channels, all of these guys, Matt Walsh, all the rest of them have zero interest in actually interrogating the white supremacy that they advocate for and that they propagate, because they don't want to be tied to this stuff. They don't want to be tied to white supremacist shooters, to Nazis. Ben Shapiro doesn't want to talk about, there seems to be this person, if we hear in the future that, this guy watches Matt Walsh videos, almost, it's not inconceivable. Do you think Ben Shapiro is going to come out and say like, we disavow Matt Walsh. Oh, this isn't the kind of, shh. If that information ever came out, Ben's going to, shh. He ain't going to say a damn word. He's going to go radio fucking silent. Because they don't want to be tied to this stuff. Even though they know that they're only, a a skip and a toss from them being able to tie these sorts of radical extremists, these fucking psychos, to the content that they create, to the rhetoric that they push.
So all of that happened, which seems bizarre.
Also, by the way, the reason, and here's the actual reason. Ben will say, oh, we haven't seen the manifesto. Would you like to know the reason why we know this stuff about white supremacist shooters and we don't know this stuff about, as the example he picks, why we don't know the Nashville shooter? Because it doesn't seem like the Nashville shooter published it on the internet. It doesn't seem like they have this long paper trail of going online and talking about how much they hate Christians. It's just not there. Whereas with most of these Nazi shooters, they can't help themselves. They're all fucking brain rotted idiots. They all go onto the internet and they all go and type the N-word and talk about how much they're going to be the savior of Western civilization and everything in between. Because they're all too stupid to know that not only are they not popular, they're not well liked in the United States, in civil, polite society. And because their racism blinds them so much, because they think, oh, well, I'm white. What do you mean? People will accept me and my racism because I'm white. No. This isn't this isn't the 1950s. This isn't the 1960s. That's just not gonna fly anymore. But, asking these morons who've bought into this kind of ideology to, think a little bit and think to themselves, maybe I shouldn't publish paragraphs long, book long fucking manifestos about how much I just fucking hate non-white people. Maybe I shouldn't post that on the internet. But no, they're too stupid. They're just too dumb. They have no self-awareness. They have no idea that all of their ideas are hated by most people.
To me, at the very, very least, the shooting obviously was condemned by everyone, ranging from President Biden, who said we must refuse to live in a country where black families going to the store or black students going to school live in fear of being gunned down because of the color of their skin, which of course is true. Governor DeSantis said something similar. He called the shooting horrific and said the state was offering support to the local authorities. But as I say, Florida is a fascinating and complex place. Here was Governor DeSantis speaking about the shooting.
Really, and now we're back to talking about
Florida,
DeSantis.
the state, and its people condemn the horrific racially motivated murders perpetrated by a deranged scumbag in.
And once again, he's going to say a bunch of stuff here. I want you to identify for me what's going to change in Florida policy to make this stop.
In Jacksonville at the Dollar General store. Perpetrating violence of this kind is unacceptable, and targeting people due to their race has no place in the state of Florida. Casey and I extend condolences to the victims and their families on behalf of the entire state of Florida.
And that's it. There's not a solution to be found. Just we'll throw some money on it.
Meanwhile, the sheriff over here, again, a man named TK Waters, he says, you want to try to blame the guns. It's not about the guns. It's about the person who's wielding the guns.
The story is always about guns. The people are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now and I lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual.
Now, I'm not surprised that should we look up the rest of that clip? I don't know at what point, because I'd love to hear the rest of that, because that's a pretty condensed clip. But also keep in mind, sheriffs are frequently incorrect when it comes to gun policy, because it's just not really, most cops honestly like shooting. They like they're a very pro Second Amendment sort of group. But now I'm kind of, let's see. I don't think, I feel like how long could this be? 21-year-old. Now this is Yeah, I get it. Yep. Ooh, if we can find the transcript, that'd actually be great. Control F. Right. FFL transferred to Wildwood. Gunshot. Didn't have guns back in 2017. As a matter of fact, looks like he purchased the guns completely legally. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. We'll start with this.
So it appears they did everything that they were supposed to do as a gun dealer. There was nothing indicating that he should not own guns.
So then standing here on the other side of this podium.
I don't know. Could it possibly be the history of online activity that should have, I don't know, disqualified him? Or I don't know if there was somebody with some sense around him, if there were red flag laws in place, they could have reported him to the police as a danger to himself or others. Just a thought.
He possessed these guns legally. We know what he did with them. What could have been done? What should have been done?
Well, we have to stop people that have bad intentions. Guns, the story is always about guns. People are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now and I lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual. Now, guns are a tool that people use to do horrible things. But
and let's keep in mind, it's always funny when people say guns are tools, because at the end of the day, guns are tools for hunting. That's the like normal or at the very least the like tool usage. You don't use guns to open doors. You don't use guns to fucking install install your TV. You don't fucking use guns to do anything but hunt animals or kill people. That is their use. There is no tertiary use for guns. Period. And the idea that like, oh, guns aren't the problem. Well, the existence of guns isn't the problem. That is correct. The access to guns are the problem. He uses the example of like, oh, if I put my gun down right in front of me, it's only dangerous once somebody with bad intentions picks it up. Well, first of all, leaving aside gun safety, which we all know, all guns are loaded at all times. You do not play with the gun gremlins. But keep in mind, we have a relationship in this country, and I bet a relationship in Florida where, guess what? The idea that people just put guns in front of folks, the whole premise of like all it takes is for a bad guy to walk up and take that gun. The problem is how easy it would be for them to take it now, isn't it? The problem isn't the gun sitting there. It's the fact that you just left it unattended, sitting at a podium, ready for anybody to come pick it up. And that's what the relationship is with guns in the United States. We are awash with firearms that are easily begotten by our citizens. And because of that, because we can't tell intention by looking at somebody, because that we can't, gun shop owners can't read minds. Yeah, there should probably be a few barriers to make sure that people are going to operate them safely. It's very odd to me that whenever we talk about, people's right to bear arms, we don't have this for very many things. This industry where Americans have a right to access a product. That's not really like, and I don't mean like broadly. I mean a specific kind of product in our Constitution. We have this very special relationship with guns. And for that, I think we also need to have a special relationship with the law around guns. To acknowledge that all it takes when I put my gun down, if I have my gun right here, I put it down, all it takes is a bad person to pick it up, then maybe the answer is, maybe it shouldn't be that easy. Maybe all it should take is someone coming over and picking up that gun. What's up, Nova Liam? How are you doing this fine evening or morning, wherever you might be?
it's the individuals that wield these things. So we are working hard to try to stop that. But in this situation,
And again, and how do you do that? If you don't have gun control laws, if you don't have restrictions, if you don't have some system of checks to discern in some form or fashion who these people are, this is just going to keep happening. It's going to happen again, and 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 again, and again, and again. You can look up you can look up how many shootings we have in the United States. We far outpace every single country on this goddamn planet. Do you think we outpace them in terms of our shitty mental health? You know, it's funny because like Japan as a country has a pretty not great relationship with mental health over there. But do you notice how often there are instances of gun violence? Their president, I think it was their president. They don't have a prime minister, right? They have a president. Their president gets shot by a dude who has to build a whole ass firearm. If that was the United States, he would have bought it like a good old boy at the shop down the street, loaded up some ammo, and went out and shot the president. That's how easy it is for people who want to commit violence in this country. So you must address access. This isn't about guns being, none of that. None of all the tertiary bullshit. This is about access and how loose and how open our access is to firearms. Anyway, it is morning, 3 a.m. Oh my God. Doing all right. I was really, really like dead tired yesterday, so we didn't do that much. Played some video games, did like 2 stories. That knife crime replaced gun crime. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Argued that knife. I mean, look, at the end of the day, knives are a lot less effective than guns. Like, violence is always going to happen, right? But like, what do you do with knives? Oh, like people say like, oh, well, guns are tools, right? Well, knives are also tools. But knives, there's at least like you cut meat. You can open boxes. There's, for any bladed almost anything, there are like 10 to 12 different use cases that aren't stab a person, right? Whereas guns, there just isn't. There isn't this wide range of use cases for firearms. It's hunt animals, kill people. That's it. They're here for those 2 things. So if you're not hunting, I guess one could say target practice, but that's not that's like recreational. That's not a necessity. So if you're buying a firearm, if you're not hunting, you're probably intending one day you use it on somebody. That's just kind of the reality of it. Most people, I think, most gun owners, and by most, I mean a vast, vast majority, buy guns because they like shooting and are like it as a recreational sporting thing. I think a lot of people participate in that, and and like a smaller group, but also very large group, get it for self-defense because, they, maybe own a home or they live in a neighborhood that they don't love or whatever. Other people have those reasons. And then you have people who just buy guns because they like guns. And those sorts of people are the loudest because it's a hobby to them. But their hobby is costing us like untold numbers of lives. It's just not worth it. Use a bow at that point. Yeah, really. But so not only is Ron DeSantis having a bit of trouble, I think really connecting to certainly the black community, but Floridians in general after this shooting, another presidential candidate also had to show up on CNN and defend some comments that he made recently. So let's go take a look at Vivek
Joining me
Ramaswamy.
now is 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy.
And I believe this would have been after the debate.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning, sir. I want to start.
Okay, now I shouldn't have to say this, but like Vivek is a satire of a populist, quite frankly.
with what I began the program with, which is this racist shooter killing 3 black people in Jacksonville yesterday. What is your reaction to the shooting?
It is such a tragedy, and my heart goes out to those families. This should not be happening in the United States of America, and it is wrong. The reality is we have a mental...
Okay, again, okay. As always, and just like last time, he says it should not be happening. It's wrong. Let's see what solutions. Let's see what answers he has for this. What are the changes that need to be made that he would institute that are going to stem this?
Mental health epidemic in this country. There are reports that this particular individual, the perpetrator, was indeed evaluated for mental health deficiencies as well. And I think we need to have the courage in this country to bring back a practice of putting back psychiatrically ill people who pose a risk to their communities into psychiatric institutions, not just drug.
So wait a minute. His suggestion is lock people, is forcibly admit people? That isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? Any normal sane person who lives outside of the US would probably say, "Oh, do you Americans, you guys have mental health, you guys have a mental health problem on your hand in your country?" You see, whenever, like, we have this thing called socialized medicine, or maybe it's different countries have different systems, but generally access free healthcare in a lot of countries. Why don't you guys just implement that so that people who are having these issues have access and can seek the help that they need to seek? To which, yeah, that's the obvious answer, isn't it? But is that Vivek's answer? Is it? No, because his answer is, look, guys, we just lock people up if we think they're mentally ill. We just round them up and put them into a bunch of institutions, because freedom, I guess. This guy's supposed to be like the freedom libertarian guy. And, how many of those people, okay, keep in mind, how many of those institutions, 2 things, how many of those institutions are going to be private institutions, 1, and 2, how many of those institutions are just going to be used to house homeless people who also have mental health issues, but we don't catch any of these shooters because all of our fucking, all of the psych wards that are supposed to be catching the shooters are all filled with homeless people. That, by the way, we don't fix the crisis of homelessness. We just incarcerate them in hospitals. Like, this is this guy's solution. And luckily, some private like mental health institution can make a bunch of money. That's the real solution here.
Drugging them up, but faith-based approaches and other approaches that fill our longing for purpose and meaning in this country.
Yeah.
I think it is just a shame that we even have mass shootings like this, be it the one that happened in Florida, be it the recent one, the Nashville shooter in a...
And for anybody, and let's keep in mind, for anybody who wants to say that, like, gun control wouldn't do anything to stem this, wouldn't address any of this, I implore you to go and take a look at New Zealand after the Christchurch shooting, and you tell me how effective that was.
Christian school, killing 6 in a school. We have to address that mental health epidemic, and we need leaders with the courage to do it. But my heart goes out to those families, and I hope something like this never happens again.
Mental health is one.
I hope it never happens again. It will literally happen the next day. We can go look at the statistics. I can almost guarantee you by week's end, we're going to get another one of these.
One aspect of these shootings, and apparently, and we're still learning a lot about what happened. The facts are still coming out. Also, this was very much apparently racially motivated.
What is this? Hoplophile. Great word I just found. Hoplophile, plural, hoplophiles. One who loves or is attracted to firearms or other weapons. We got on them Oh, yeah, hoplophiles. Oh, absolutely. My favorite is Sam Cedar's Ammosexuals. That one is a really good one.
The sheriff there said point blank that this shooter
had... It's because mental health. Like, these guys don't support socialized or universal health care. So them saying mental health is meaningless. The only people who would actually have access to the mental health that they talk about are, the wealthy, the well-off. If you can afford a psychiatrist, if you can afford, mental health, what's it called? Like mental healthcare, then yeah, you're probably not going to commit this stuff because you already, that's already the system we have. If you have money, you go to see a fucking therapist and you probably don't commit one of these acts. But most of the people who commit them are poor, or at the very least, they don't have money to just throw to psychiatrists. But they do have money to watch YouTube videos from Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, and the rest of the fascists in this country, who then will just push them down the rabbit hole of, white genocide hysteria. That they do have money for.
Had manifestos coming, 3 manifestos, and said specifically that he went to this dollar store with the intent of killing black people.
And Granny, you want to go to a college campus first.
I think that is heinous and deserves to be called out for what it is. The reality is we've created such a racialized culture in this country in the last several years that right as the last few burning embers of racism were burning out, we have a culture in this country largely created by media.
There's a classic line from a comedian, I forget their name, and it went something like, oh man, everything was great. Racism was almost over until Barack Obama had to bring it back. And that's what it always sounds like to me. These guys will do like this. We were over racism, guys. Come on. Go back and take a look at some of the coverage that Fox News, that conservatives, all the hair pulling that went on during the Obama administration. 2008 is when all this stuff was like bubbling up to be so goddamn obvious. And it's like, and again, I'm being really generous here. Like the 90s were not a great time. We had the Rodney King beatings in 92. These are not, we are not some kind of post-racialized society. Black people still in this country have a just infinitely harder time making it due to the underfunded neighborhoods they're in, due to the mass incarceration, drug wars, all the rest of that. But they all want to say, come on, guys, we're all, we're past racism. People don't talk about race anymore. It's not really a thing that people run on, even though, Trump says stuff like, you got to protect the suburbs. And, Ron DeSantis goes out there and is like, oh, yeah, slaves during chattel slavery, they really learned some skills through their forced employment. Like, these are the people who want to do this, like, oh, yeah, we're not a racial society anymore. Like, come the fuck on.
Yeah, an establishment and universities and politicians that throw kerosene on that racism. And I can think of no better way to fuel racism in this country than to take something away from other people on the basis of their skin color. I've been saying that for years. Life? And I think that is driving, sadly, a new wave of anti-black and anti-Hispanic racism in this country. I think the right way forward is if we want to stop hate.
Wait. That made, hit me with that again, brother.
Throw kerosene on that racism. And I can think of for what it is. The reality is we've created such a racialized culture in this country in the last several years that right as the last few burning embers of racism were burning out, we have a culture in this country largely created by media and establishment and universities and politicians.
Okay. We know who let's be honest. We always knew who he was talking about. He wants to say universities, which is to say, look, if you study black history, if you study race relations in the United States, it's going to make racial tensions worse. Look, to Vivek Ramaswamy, this guy sees this, and I don't know how much he really believes this. He might be a grifter for all I know. But what he is arguing here is that we have begun to dissect and interrogate the racism in this country's founding and throughout our history. And because of that, because we have decided to interrogate that in our universities, whatever, leftist dog whistle he wants to use. Because we've started doing that, there are white racists who have become more nervous, who watch more Tucker Carlson with his white replacement stuff, who become more racially discriminatory, and then end up shooting. And because you learned too much, because you thought too much about this country's history with racism, you made me do it. You made us do it. You made us white boys do it. That's the argument that he's making. That you talk too much about the racial inequality of black people. You made white people uncomfortable. And some of them picked up a gun and shot some people. And what's funny is all this violence comes from one end. And every time they have to make it about, oh, is it the left? Oh, is it people like Ibram X. Kendi? Is it this, whatever other black writer they want to use? It's just, I don't know, man. It's pathetic.
No
is what it
kerosene
is.
on that racism. And I can think of no better
Also,
way
who's
to fuel
racism?
racism in this country
By the way.
than to take something away from other people on the basis of their skin color. I've been saying that for years. And I think that is driving, sadly, a new wave
Right.
of anti-black. And
Because, yeah, really. Because there's all those left white racial attacks on minorities out there.
Hispanic racism in this country. I think the right way
Sir,
forward is if
Yeah, Hispanic racism coming from the guy who's running in the party, who like their last presidential candidate and their last party president started his campaign talking about people from Mexico being murderers and rapists, calling African countries shitholes. Oh yeah.
we want to stop hate
Really
and
concerned.
discrimination on the basis of race.
Wants to
Let's
build a
stop
wall.
discriminating on the basis of race and see what unites us as Americans, because I do not think this kind of racial division
Also, he's not saying
and any
anything.
division is
He's literally not saying anything. He's just fucking he's just saying nothing. He's
good for
saying
us as the
absolutely
United
nothing.
States.
I believe that there are a lot of people of color in this country who don't think it was just lasting embers of racism, but that a lot more work had to be done, particularly given...
Yeah, wait a minute. Lasting embers of racism. I just thought about this. Fucking Charlottesville was in, when was that? When the fuck was Charlottesville? Let's see. Fuck me. 2016. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either 2016 or 2017. I'm just gonna put riot. That's what it was. Unite the Right. When the fuck was this? Can I get a date for some of these? God damn it, Getty Images. Okay, fine. Unite the Right rally. 2017. Okay, I was right. Yep. 2017, we got the Unite the Right rally. And to Vivek Ramaswamy, he thinks that the last burning embers of racism were, we're fanning out over the last couple of years. We are not 10 years, what are we, 2016? So what is that, 4? We are 7 years? We are just 7 years past this. And he wants to talk about, oh yeah, we're like, totally past all of this as a nation. Oh yeah, racism was gone. Fucking ridiculous. Fucking absurd. No sense of history, as fucking usual, from people who all they ever want to talk about is the traditions of this country. No fucking sense of history. Let alone the fact that rally leads directly to January 6th either way. But yeah.
The history of the systemic racism in this country with slavery and beyond. I want to ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one.
Never seen a white supremacist. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I've never seen one. I don't know why I'm giving him the southern accent. It's just I feel like he was trying to invoke a little bit of that. Did you guys hear it too? Maybe I'm crazy.
Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner, and maybe those exist too.
White
So
supremacists
just because
don't
somebody
exist.
hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of
I,
white
for one, have
supremacy
never
doesn't
met
exist as a
a
threat
member
in
of the
America.
Nazi
What do
Party.
you think
How can
goes
Nazis be
through the
real?
minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy?
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them
is it fucking Wales? Doesn't Wales have like a cool ass dragon on their flag? I think that's
into
Wales.
partisan politics. But I was responding
Is
to a
that Wales?
question where
Let's see
someone
how-
asked
let's
me,
see how-
what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly. Most of that racism has come from the modern left. It's happening
I was
during the
right.
course of this campaign.
Yeah.
Kara Swisher.
Fuck. That's a cool flag. I gotta say, that's a cool flag. It's got a cool ass dragon. I like dragons. Dragons are cool.
Calling me Rama Smarmy the other day and reveling in making twists of my last name. People effectively reducing me to the color of my skin and my attributes. That comes today from the modern left. But the reality
Well,
is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dogma
white
in this
supremacy
country.
does still exist in the United
Wait,
States?
wait. Is he trying to equate? Let's be clear. While I do this, let's be clear. He is trying to equate some people saying a dumb, like, remix of his name on Twitter. He is trying to equate that with an actual of Scotland. With like an actual fucking shooting. I'm assuming. Oh, is this one? Is it this one? Is it the cool? Is it the one with the? That's cool. That's a cool one. I mean, I like the blue. I always love the blue. Animals on flags. That's what we need more of. I think admittedly, bald eagles are kind of boring. I don't really love eagles on flags. Also, ooh, that's true. Birds on flags kind of ruined by the Nazis a bit. That also is true. But yeah, more animals on flags, guys. The bear flag, probably one of the cooler flags. Anyway, let's go back real quick.
That comes today from the modern left. But the reality
Well,
is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dogma
white
in this
supremacy
country.
does still exist in the United States?
More animals on flags. Just not,
I acknowledge that all
birds are just a bit awkward because, like, I think I saw a flag earlier that was like, oh, what is it? It's like of like farmers, and oh god, what is it? It has like a bird. Oh god, bird feeders. Yeah, okay, yeah. United Farm Workers. Okay, yes, this is what I was looking for. This flag. I saw this earlier on Reddit on a post, and like. Not a cool flag. Again, it's an animal on a flag, but it kind of looks a bit familiar, right? What is it? It's just like it's just awkward. It's like, god damn it, had to go and fucking ruin birds on flags. And like, I think Arizona here in the United States has a bird on its flag, I believe. Oh, no, it doesn't. I'm full of shit. Is that New Mexico, then? One of them. New Mexico? One of them does, right? Holy fuck, I'm just completely full of shit. Papua New Guinea? Ooh. I'm getting distracted by looking up flags with birds. Ooh. God, I'm so terrible. There we go. Ooh, I like how, ooh, that looks cool. Looks kind of, that's neat. I like that one. Yeah, like, I just like animals on flags. It's just birds are a bit awkward. That one's better. That one's distinct enough that you won't mistake it for a Nazi flag. The farmers ones I saw earlier, and I was like, oh, that's awkward. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Oh, I guess this isn't a... Okay, so the bear flag, right. The bear flag has a bear paw, which is still pretty cool. California has the grizzly bear, which is a cool flag. I'm not going to take that away from them. It is a cool flag. But yeah. Animals on flags, people. I'm trying to think. I'm from Virginia. We had kind of a... Oh, no, ours is actually kind of badass. Because we have Homegirl. We have Homegirl with her titty out. Fucking taking down the fucking king or whatever. All right, this is the last one because I'm getting majorly distracted. Old Republic. Oh wait, I bet it's Republic. of China. China. I'm assuming 1912. I saw it give me that option. Oh, wait, really? Wait, was it just this one or was it this one too? This one's cool. This okay. So I'm gonna be a nerd right now and say this looks like the Starfield colors, which I do really love. I have a headset that has this color scheme, but I really like this one with the bird and the. That's cool, but I don't know if that's real. That might just be. I mean, this looks 1912. I mean, that's also very cool. But this one I do like as well. I like the like the blue contrasting with the red and the orange. Anyway, okay. Just the stripes. The colors represent each culture within the country. Mongols, Han, Manchus, Turks, and Cantonese. That's cool. Ooh. The stripe one I still do like though. I just think this if you're gonna like improve on it, I think this is a cool improvement. I like the dragon with the bird. I'm not sure why they have little cups. That seems kind of silly. Just have the bird with the thing. But again, animals, flags. Tibetans. Oh. Anyway, okay, let's get back. Let's get back to the topic. I'm tough. Don't. Oh. Woo. God damn, dude. I have a thing here. More flags. No, we must continue. Also, I'm turning this up. You guys let me know if this gets too loud. Woof, woof. Okay. Okay. God damn. Yeah, it's hot as hell in this room. Granted, it's been really hot in Colorado. I'm sick and tired of this damn season. Anyway. Ramaswamy.
All forms of racial animus exist in the United States, including fringe branches. I mean, that's clearly what was at the head of this mentally deranged.
Okay, wait. Let's back up to her question.
Kara Swisher calling me Rama Smarmy the other, and I answered honestly. Not bring them into partisan politics. Grieving for their loss, and I don't want to.
Can I hear the question? There we go.
When they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy.
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation.
No, please politicize it because they're victims of a system. They're victims of decisions that this society has made. I hate this bullshit of like, oh, don't politicize this thing that has that's consequences can be traced back to decisions that we made of how to organize our society. No, politicize it. This is about politics. Like the ability for somebody to get radicalized on the internet. Again, we don't know that that's what happened, but I think I'm pretty safe in assuming that somebody getting radicalized on the internet, on YouTube, on Twitch, on any of these platforms, and then being able to easily go out and go buy a firearm to then go take out their anger with black people because they read some fucking memes on Twitter or whatever as well, kind of means that we have just a bit of a issue with the way that we've organized all of this. That is evident. That is politics. I hate this whole like, oh, people getting shot isn't politics. People getting shot is absolutely politics. Are you insane?
We should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics. But I was responding to a question where
they just don't like partisan politics when it falls against them.
What racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly.
Didn't he just wait? Didn't he just say that we were in a post? Oh my God.
Most of that racism has come from the modern left. It's happening during the course of this campaign. Kara Swisher calling me Rama Smarmy the other day and reveling in making twists of my last name. People effectively reducing me to the color of my skin and my attributes.
Well, no, they're calling you Smarmy. Smarmy isn't an attribute that's like racially tied to being. He's like Sikh, right? If I remember correctly, he's like Indian. He's like Sikh. That being Smarmy isn't. They were calling you Smarmy and and using your last name. That's not really. But it's funny, right? Because they'll do the whole like, oh yeah, we live in a post-racial world except the left, and it's like, all right, yeah, because again, he was totally watching. This guy was definitely watching. The Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske, Majority Report, Vosh, any of these folks. totally watching all of these leftist YouTubers and leftist influencers, and that's definitely what gave him the idea of like, maybe I should go out and kill black people. Like, yeah, okay, sure.
Comes today from the modern left. But the reality is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dog.
white
Goddamn right,
supremacy
Groove Dragon.
does still exist in the United States?
I acknowledge that all forms of racial animus exist in the United States, including fringe branches.
Wait, what did she ask specifically?
Exist in the United States?
Reducing me to the color of my skin and my attributes. That comes today from the modern left. But the reality is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dogma
white
in this
supremacy
country.
does still exist in the United States?
Oh my Jesus.
I acknowledge that all forms of racial animus exist in the United States, including fringe branches. I mean, that's clearly what was at the head of this mentally.
And okay. Do you notice he can't just say, "Of course it does," or "Yeah, it does"? Like, do you notice he has to say, "Look, I believe that all groups can be racist." Right? That's not the question I asked you. I asked you if this specific one exists. Which, if you believe the latter, you should be able to answer yes for the former, which means that the latter isn't your real answer. Fucking idiot.
Deranged individual responsible for this shooting, yes. But I think there are many forms of mental derangement that cause us to see one another on the basis of our skin color and our attributes. And I think what we need to revive, Dana, and it's my job as the leader, hopefully as the next president, to do this, to revive our doctrine of e pluribus unum, not just celebrating our diversity and our skin-deep attributes, but celebrating what unites us across that diversity. That's what we've forgotten in the United States of America. Our true strength is the set of ideals that unite us. That's my job to revive as our next president. And I think that the next generation in particular is so starved for that, starved for commonality, starved for a nation that is unified, bigger than the sum of its parts. That's what we need to recreate in this country. And to those who say the remedy to past
Whoa, you gave her a funny nickname that sounds similar to her normal name? Wow, you must be racist. It's the most racist thing I've ever heard of. You're reducing her to the color of her skin, apparently. Because, yeah, but that's some shit.
Discrimination is present discrimination. I say no. The right remedy is actually abandoning all discrimination and moving forward with colorblind meritocracy in the United States of America.
Color? Okay. So again, what the fuck does that do for racial tensions in the United States? No, really. What is colorblind? What did he say? Colorblind meritocracy? Do you know who the colorblind meritocracy is going to put at the head of society? People with power. Would you like to know who that is frequently in the United States? It ain't black people, and it ain't immigrants coming from Mexico, and it ain't Indian guys like this guy. It's white people. There's a reason why they always want to talk about, Republican candidates specifically want to talk about merit. It's because, and I think I said this a little bit last time, what they want to do is start fairness well after the point that they've gotten ahead. To a Republican, the system as it is right now is one of patriarchy and one of social dominance by the wealthy elite. Meaning that when they argue for any kind of systemic changes or any kind of systemic revisions, what they want, what they're looking for, what they are willing to throw their support behind, for electoralism, obviously, is the notion of merit and fairness, because they want to be able to be born into wealth or gamble on the stock market and luck into some wealth, and then afterwards, after they've made all this money, after they've ascended to the top of society, they then want to say, now look, we all know I got to where I got because of merit, and you all got to where you got because of merit. So let's all come together equally and say that it's all about your merit. But you notice they didn't really talk about it back then. Merit wasn't a thing that we talked about back when those who are in power now were still gaining it. Back then, it was all about greed is good. Back then, it was all about cutthroat business. Back then, it was all about, the art of the deal. Back then, it was all about, being the, as shifty and as what's the word? Advantageous as you could be. Capitalizing on every opportunity to make an extra dollar in every space possible. But now all of a sudden, now it's all about whoa. Let's make it fair. Come on now. Let's all come together. It's been fair. It's always been fair. But if it hasn't, let's make it fair starting right now. I'm still way ahead of everybody, but we'll make it fair starting right now. And it just preserves their position in society. And it's why they bring that sort of stuff up. Because they're already 5 meters from the finish line. And now they would like everybody to play on an even playing field. What is this? Please watch this rant. I shall. We'll watch that right after this. I don't think we have much of this left.
We took it to another level on Friday. In addition to the comment we played, you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK."
Oh,
you
under
know, I'm
Sunak,
sure
too.
the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of Black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than...
Ooh. This is a perfect example of what I mean. Okay, so I looked up Suella, what is it again? Braverman. I looked up her Wikipedia and was briefly glancing at it. And I noticed this this little paragraph here under complaint to the Bar Standards Board. Take a listen to this. 9 organizations wrote a letter to the Bar Standards Board in May of 2023 alleging that Braverman had violated the bar's code of conduct regarding, quote, racist sentiments and discriminatory narratives. They referred her to comments Braverman made in 2022, referring to people reaching the UK by crossing the channel in small boats as an quote invasion, as well as comments about sexual grooming gang members being predominantly British Pakistani men who, quote, hold cultural values totally at odds with British values. This is what I'm talking about, because this woman, we can go take a look at her. I'm not sure where she hails from. Let's take a look really quickly. Let's do, I guess we're doing early life. Sure. In London, raised in Wembley. Let's see. Both Indian, right. So she is what it seems like firstborn in the immigrant family, meaning that she came to this country. Her parents were lucky enough to immigrate here, and now her ascension into essentially the ruling class has motivated her to not just kick the ladder down, but again, what I mentioned earlier, like, you get to a place, you've made it so far, and now suddenly you want this, like, you want everything, she'll say, oh, I'm not racist. Look, I'm not a racist. I don't hold, a racially discriminatory views. This person is another person who absolutely would say, I made it because of my hard work, because I earned it because of the merit, because of my merits. That's how I made it to where I'm at. Even though, once again, an immigrant, the daughter of immigrants, almost certainly, and, comes here, makes it up the ladder, and then immediately looks to demonize the people who she, would have identified with, if not for her wealth and status. Because she understands that the people in her class, the people in her social circles, that's the stuff that they want to hear. Those are the things that they want to hear somebody say. They want to hear somebody from India denigrate immigrants. They want to hear somebody from an immigrant family kick that ladder down and denigrate other immigrants. Because they all want to make it that this person made it because of merit. It's not because of racism. It's not because of any of these systems. It's because we live in a meritocratic system and this person made it. And they'll use her as a tool for that. And suddenly say, look, we just want it to be fair. How many times in the United States do we hear immigrants to this country say, I feel bad for the people fleeing their countries but at least I came here the right way. How many times have you heard that? I've heard it from Hispanics quite often, that they did it the right way. Because they've all been told that, no. We need a few of you to just kind of make it, and then we can turn around and say, see, that's how it's supposed to be done. That's how this is supposed to be done.
Saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints or your ideas.
They would be
by the way, your skin color absolutely predicts the outcomes of your hard work.
Of the modern KKK.
You can go and look at zip codes and predict outcomes.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate in this country. This is dividing our country to a breaking point.
That is a debate that is based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and
keep in mind the KKK. We don't talk about the KKK because they're racist. There are tons of racists in this country. The KKK are uniquely motivated by racial tensions and racial hatred. And not only that, the KKK are pretty uniquely synonymous with violent action in this country. To compare a sitting congressperson who has some problems with your rhetoric to somebody who would burn crosses and lynch black people is pretty absurd.
Violence against black people. How on earth is she a modern Grand Wizard of that kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate
by the way, the
about.
KKK would not want him
that says that the
running
remedy
for
to past
president either, by the
discrimination
way.
is present discrimination. That if you're black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view. That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being a Grand Wizard of the KKK? Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history.
There are people in the Republican Party who aren't really that in agreement to that, but okay.
So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today? The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think that is an intellectually useful starting point for a provocative discussion that we need to have in this country.
The whole point is the KKK wasn't just about rhetoric.
We have to speak openly.
Also, again, this is all like, you said a thing that I'm misunderstanding. You sound like a KKK member. It's like, okay. I don't even know what he's referencing. Like, the argument he's trying to make, you would have to be willfully, I don't know, brain dead or something. You would have had to like run into a wall head first and then sat down to watch this to understand what he's trying to get across.
They lynched people, they murdered people, they raped people, they burned their homes.
And that was wrong.
Simply
that was obviously wrong. Wrong.
Okay, so again,
that is obviously a wrong
if you want to have an intellectual discussion, do you think that maybe comparing her to the Grand Wizard and the notion of what she said to being a modern leader of the KKK was maybe a step too far, or you stand by what you said?
I stand by what I said to provoke an open and honest discussion in this country. Because there is a gap, Dana, between what people will say in private.
I said an incredibly inflammatory and unsubstantiated comparison, and I stand by that because now we're talking about it, which really reveals like the grift of Vivek Ramaswamy, because at the end of the day, the thing he's interested in isn't, winning an election. He's not interested in doing anything other than grabbing a bunch of attention and, fluffing up his presidential bid chances and probably his chances to become VP, all at the same time, all while, let's be honest here, he's not going to win. He's going to end up writing a book. He's going to end up landing on the board of some company. He's going to end up leading some super PAC. Some organization's going to pay him a lot of money, or he's going to start an organization that's going to make him a lot of money. That's going to basically, fundraise off of the back of a former presidential candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy. Like that's the entire purpose of all of this. You only want to stir discussion, when by being inflammatory, when getting the attention is the only thing on your mind. Let's see. What did where's chat?
It's the Labour Party. It's the Lib Dems. It's the coalition of chaos.
Oh, this piece of shit already.
It's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati, dare I say, the anti-growth.
Okay. Let me just say, there is a level of respect that I have for British Parliament and their what's the word I'm looking for? Their allowance of people to not give any kind of shit while in the chambers, that I really respect. I wish the people were allowed to just openly mock and laugh at people. Enforcing protest law, by the way. Oh yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course this person would go on this entire rant because they want to crack down on protests. Of course.
Coalition that we have to thank for the disruption that we are seeing on our roads today.
Would my right honourable friend agree that given the strict limitation of police resources, they should perhaps deploy those resources on dealing with the guerrilla tactics that are putting the people of London at harm, and less time policing pronouns on Twitter?
Well, my honourable friend raises an issue that is close to my heart, which is we need our police officers, our brave men and women, the majority of whom are heroes, frankly, in terms of this nation's law enforcement and security, to be focusing on our priorities and the priorities of the law-abiding majority, common sense policing. And that means focusing on targeting and fighting the bad guys, fighting the criminals and stopping crime.
So why don't you do that?
Not policing pronouns and not pandering.
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you misgender somebody, does your local constable come over and billy club you to death? Is that how it works in the UK? I don't think that's how policing works over there. I would love to see that. That would really bring that would really bring a shine in my eye. That would really warm my heart. If a local constable come over and beat your ass with a billy club after you went and gone and on not misidentify somebody. But I don't think that's what's happening. If anything, they're beating the shit out of protesters most of the time.
To politically correct campaigns, I will make progress, I'm afraid. No government should fail in its duty to protect its citizens from such abuse, and this government will always put the law-abiding majority first. And in a democracy, we make policy through civilized debate and at the ballot box, not through mob rule and not by visiting chaos and...
Excuse me, sir. Did you just call that man over there a woman? I'm sorry. By law, I will have to beat your ass for a minimum of 3 minutes. This isn't happening. I'm sorry.
Misery on our fellow citizens. When I was the Attorney General, I'm afraid I haven't got much time. When I was the Attorney General, I went to court to establish
I love how much they can heckle people.
Right to
I
commit
really do.
criminal damage. The Court of Appeal agreed with me in the Colston statue case that serious and violent disorder crossed a line when it comes to freedom of expression. That's common sense to the law-abiding majority. Now, since the 1st of October alone, the Metropolitan Police has made over 450 arrests linked to Just Stop Oil, and I welcome this, but more must be.
Okay. Wait. I thought she was gonna say for using incorrect pronouns, but yeah, they arrest protesters because if you protest without a or at least I'm gonna assume, you can correct me, Nova, if I'm incorrect. But I'm gonna assume that protest laws are, or at the very least, what's the word? Not gathering. What is it? Right to what? I guess I'll use gathering for now. If you get like a group of people together in like a public space, if you don't have a like permission from the city here in the United States, your little protest will get shut down because there's a certain amount of like organization to any kind of protest, to any kind of march, to anything like that. We like in this country, and I'm assuming this is kind of the same in the UK. You can't just get a bunch of people onto the streets and then do a big ass march. They require you to get a license, to get a permit, to shut down certain roads so they can divert traffic and stuff like that. And that makes sense to me. Obviously, in Europe, they have cases where people just walk out their door and join the fucking thing, and that's a whole nother story. But yeah, like if Just Stop Oil protesters don't get or are going to engage in protests that they either know that they're not going to get permits for, so they don't bother, or B, are denied permits, then yeah, they're going to get arrested. But that's not a that's not a valuation on the actual protest. That's like that. That's just a number. That's just a number. Like, oh, they made this many arrests. All right, so what? Like, what's the merit to any of those arrests? Did any of those arrests lead to anything? Did one lawyer show up and go, hey, we have a right to protest in this country. While you can fine people for this kind of permitless gathering, you cannot arrest people, whatever the laws might be. Like, the minute you get a lawyer in there, it's a whole different situation. So arrest doesn't really mean anything, but it's a number that she can obviously throw out there, and if nobody looks it up, if nobody goes to interrogate it, then they'll just go, yeah, oh, can you believe those Just Stop Oil protesters going down to the old cell? I don't know. I don't know what they call jails in Britain. I was in the observer deck one time. It was weird seeing them on the phone. Say it's the same. Unless it's an anti-immigrant protest, it's extremely rare to see a protest here. Oh, that's fine. Got Floral Boys. See you later, Groove Dragon. You stay well.
Done. And that's why I welcome the fact that today, Transport for London have succeeded in securing an injunction to protect key parts of the London roads network. That's an important step forward in the fight against extremists.
Oh, how much do you want to bet, by the way, that that's not some organization of people who just want their roads to be clear? It's most likely a private organization that represents a bunch of well-funded corporations that doesn't want to see their supply lines interrupted. That's just a guess on my part, but I think a founded one.
But these resources
or a fair
are
one, I should say.
vital and precious, and they have drained approximately 2,000 officer days at the Met already.
Oh my
That's
God.
resources that aren't focusing on knife crime, aren't dealing with violence
Knife
against
crime?
women and girls.
Oh, is this the
But
knife crime I hear
I'm afraid
about?
to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I will come to a close soon, that's why it was a central purpose of the Police Crime Sentencing Courts Bill, now Act, to properly empower the police in face of the protest, and yet members opposite voted against it. Had opposition members of the other place not blocked these measures when they were in the police crime sentencing and
Imagine
courts
being
bill,
this
the police
outraged
would
because
have
people
had
would like
many
the
of the
planet to
powers
not burn.
contained in this bill, and the British people would not have been put through this grief today. So yes, I'm afraid, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's the Labour Party, it's the Lib Dems, it's the Coalition of Chaos, it's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati, dare I say, the anti-growth coalition that we have to thank for the disruption that we are seeing on our roads
Wokerati? What is that even supposed to? Okay.
today. Madam Deputy Speaker, Speaker, I urge opposition MPs and members of
They're
the
really
opposite
obsessed
other
with
place
the. Okay, can somebody explain me the soy obsession? I'm not enough of an internet dweller, but like, why is there such an obsession with soy? Like the whole tofu. I just don't get it. What's the why are people always so obsessed with that? I've never understood it.
Take this second chance. Do the
Is it
right
because
thing,
tofu doesn't
respect
taste
the rights
good?
of the law-abiding majority,
I think it tastes
and
fine,
support this bill.
personally.
The question is that the bill be now read the third time. There's very little time left. Shadow Home Secretary Yvette Cooper.
Madam Deputy
Like,
Speaker,
or
I just
something?
it's like
Yeah, I
astonishing.
guess.
The Home Secretary actually talked about a coalition of chaos. We can see it in front of us as we speak. Look, I understand the Minister, they do have concerns. The government does have concerns. When they face issues where you've got a selfish minority wreaking havoc, you've got someone who's resisting all attempts by the powers that be to remove them, causing serious disruption, disorder, chaos, with serious consequences for the public, for businesses, for politics, and for financial markets. But they've glued themselves
That's the big one. I like that she emphasized that last one because that is the big one.
under the desk. With honourable members opposite, we wish them luck with their attempts to extricate another failing Tory Prime Minister from number 10, but I suggest it isn't a reason to change the law for everyone else.
Now I don't have a great vantage point of UK or European politics, but it really does say something about the Tories, at least in the UK, that like their attempts, their ability to like function as a party has been in pretty big question the last like couple of years, hasn't it? Because they had that one lady who became prime minister or something for what, couple hours, something like, it's a very short amount of time, and it's become really clear that they just don't have a vision for the country, that, you know, the minute they're in power, they don't have anything that they want to pass. They don't have anything that they want to propose. It's all just cultural aggrievement constantly, and placating to business interests. Those are the only things that seems to be motivating any kind of like Tory action in Parliament. But again, I don't have the greatest vantage point, so I'm not super keen on all that stuff, but it's just kind of the way I see it. You know, it seems like a hectic party that doesn't know what it wants. Right-wing media group in Ireland and one of their more recently joined commentators ran in my constituency. Buzzwords such as Marxism. You should no. I was gonna say you should ask what Marxism is, but well, okay. So I guess the question is, in Ireland, I guess my only question would be, is there, because in the United States, like, Marxism and Marxist is in and of itself, it's an incredibly loaded term, and it's a pretty negative one. People, because of the Cold War and the length of the Cold War, there's just so much hysteria in the United States around communism, Marxism, any of that sort of stuff. I guess my question is, in Ireland, is that relationship, is there a similar relationship to Marxism? Like, are people scared by the word Marxism the way they are here in the US? Because they're terrified. You say Marxism and people start just like hyperventilating here in the United States, especially boomers. But I don't know how ubiquitous that is the rest of the world, around the rest of the world. Oh yeah, I'm trying to think. Should we do this next? Okay, no, we're gonna skip this topic just because copies the Americans, but our version of nationalism is actually one of the few places where it is left wing, e.g. Sinn Féin. Interesting. Well, yeah, because also I'd figure Irish nationalism is going to be framed against and in opposition to imperialist like the history of imperialism in the country. So I feel like, you know, if there's going to be a nationalist strain, it would be rather left wing, because they're it would have like been born out of opposition to the British crown. Again, correct me where I'm making jumps from media. Trotsky's party with quite a few seats in our parliament. Well, that's certainly positive. Better than us with I mean, we have the squad. We have the squid. I mean, they're not you know, there's only so much that they can do. A lot of people I notice get really up in arms about their their lack of, I guess, their inability to, I think, affect politics the same way. But I've always kind of thought of that as, you know, here in the United States, unfortunately, the Democratic Party voters just aren't very favorable or interested in infighting. They really, really don't seem to respond very well to a lot of infighting. So, like, you know, when you see AOC or when you see any like leftist squad adjacent politicians, you know, in positions of power, they can't go out there and I think be as radical as people would like, because they just simply won't. They're not going to be framed or reported on, or I think viewed by the broader Democratic Party voting base as like that won't be venerated from them the same way that it is in the Republican Party. In the Republican Party, there's a much stronger populist strain, and there's a lot more people in the Republican Party, voters, I should say, that when they see Marjorie Taylor Greene acting ridiculous and they see Kevin McCarthy acting, I mean, the way he generally acts, but does it in a more professional and what's it called? And more like controlled traditional Republican opposition, they prefer Marjorie Taylor Greene. They want firebombers. They want people to go out there and be really extreme and be crazy, because, you know, a lot of their media is honestly push them into that sort of frame of reference for politics. Kevin McCarthy will never be as popular as Marjorie Taylor Greene for the simple fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a crazy person. And Kevin McCarthy, so much as he's a fascist and kind of a moron, he just isn't. He's not a crazy person in the same kind of way that Marjorie Taylor Greene is. And, you know, because that party's been pushed in that direction so far, they're, I think, going to have a really hard time winning elections, because that end of the spectrum in the Republican Party, I don't think is really capable of winning elections without cheating, obviously, which is unfortunately something that the Republican Party is good at. So it's just, you know, the populist strain is a lot stronger, and AOC and them just they are not allowed to engage in that much contention within the party, sadly. But people and people complain about that. There's a lot of other YouTubers, streamers, the like, who will scream and rant about the squad and everything else. And I just, this is all me. All of this has been me just trying to say they can only do so much. We can't treat the squad the same way, with the same expectations that like the Freedom Caucus got, because they're not equal. They're not going to get the same they're not going to get the same treatment from internally in the party. What's up to cat? I just noticed my cat's actually been behaving. What are you doing over there? Are you okay? You're breathing. River. Why don't you go back to sleep? Go back to sleep. Anyway. All right. Let's see. Fun video. Ooh, hit me with it. I love fun videos. What is this? Ben Scallon on Irexit Galway, Irish patriotism and fighting cultural Marxism within the EU. Oh no. Cultural Marxism. I'm kind of curious. What are the comments? Brilliant speaker. Thank God we still have people in Ireland. Just found out about this party while I was trying to figure out who to vote for tomorrow. Hard to believe. This lad is only 21. British. Hope to find an Irish connection one day. Refreshing antidote to Richie Boyd Barrett's. I don't know what that. What is this? Classes on Karl Marx. Excellent speaker for you. Interesting. Oh, hey, look. Interesting. All right, sorry. Oh yeah, let me transition. I have too many things open on my screen. What is that? Is that Irexit? Irexit? I don't. There we go.
Co-founder of Civil Right Media and Conservative Comeback Ireland. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Scallon.
You know, we've been watching, there's a show on Netflix that takes place in the 90s in Ireland. It's called Dairy Girls. Good show. I feel such a stronger connection to this now after, we haven't finished yet. We're on season 2. But I can really, I think I can actually, after watching a season of that show, I think I can actually understand the Irish accent a little bit better now. It kind of, oh my God, it kind of does.
I'm here to cause trouble, so I'm just going to get that out of the way now. Can everybody hear me?
Excuse me? Does he not, am I insane? Does he not have an accent?
We can all hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I thought it was quite funny that at the end of my last speech in Dublin in September, I briefly called out Angela Merkel at the end, and shortly after she announced her resignation.
Guys, somebody really liked their little animation that they did on the...
So I could be humble and put that down to coincidence, but I'm going to take credit for that right here.
Okay, I didn't hear it at the beginning. Oh my God, I'm assimilating.
If you have any politicians whose careers you'd like me to end, be sure to just send me an email or something, and I'll see what I can do. Oh yeah, sorted. I'm on it. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for coming out here today. I'd also like to thank Herman, my fellow speakers, and the organizers for putting together this great event.
He took credit for Angela Merkel resigning. Oh yeah, I remember when she resigned. I heard a lot about the scathing criticism from Ben Scallon at the time. Totally.
And Ganley for agreeing to debate this issue, even though I don't agree with his stance on the EU.
Deep down,
I have a lot of respect
he probably
for
feels
Mr. Ganley.
like, no, I totally
at the
get
Rally
it.
for Life a couple of years ago was one of the most inspiring things I've ever heard. I think I listened to that so many times that I almost accidentally memorized it. He's a big critic of Marxism and crony corporatism, like myself.
Marxism,
and he's a God-fearing man, so we have that in
Wait, Marxism, crony corporatism. Crony corporatism is what we see in capitalism, my friend. Also, keep in mind, from what I've ever experienced, cultural Marxism usually is just, isn't it usually just a dog whistle for the Jews? Like, it's just one of those, oh, we'll just say cultural Marxism, whatever the fuck that means.
Too. So thank you, sir, for your service to Irish society over so many years.
Like Marx, a guy who wrote like frequently about the relationship of people in class, and somehow that's cultural or something.
Like this, and I think it's a very healthy sign for our society. As for me, as Kate Lawler said, my name is Ben Scallon. Some of you may know me from the Facebook page Conservative Comeback Ireland.
What a cool guy.
Civil Right Media, page, where we try to provide Irish people with a reasonable centre-right perspective on current affairs. So if you're sick of the
say it's reasonable,
and their far-left stranglehold on information, you can check us out at facebook.com/Civil Right Media and also facebook.com/Irish Comeback.
Oh my God.
Because the truth is
that should be like a red flag to anybody looking for information, is if it's a Facebook link and if they're like, oh, this is the perspective you'll never hear. I don't know what accent that was. But like at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, you remember that thing that they tell you don't get all your information on Facebook? This guy's like, no. Come to my Facebook page where we will give you information. Like, we all kind of understand that Facebook is not a great what's the word? Distributor of or enlightener of information.
Important, and people have a right to hear it regardless of whose sensibilities it offends.
American. person feels like someone who looked at Marxism at
And
face value.
that actually is one of the biggest differences between us and the people.
The problem
who
is
currently run the
Marxism
European Union.
actually
we believe that
requires you to
ordinary
think a
people are
little
entitled to hear
bit
the truth
about
and to be given the full story
systems
before
and
they make up their
structures.
mind on important issues. But too many people in the EU and in our own government,
Like, I don't even know
agree
what
with this
people
idea, it
hear
seems.
when they think,
One of these
like, I
people
don't
is
even know what
President
the
of EU Commission,
face
Mr.
value
Jean-Claude
definition of
Juncker.
Marxism even is.
The Daily Telegraph quotes him as saying, in reference to the Lisbon Treaty, "Of course there will be transfers of sovereignty, but would I be intelligent to draw the attention of the public to this fact?" Now, leaving aside the question of Mr. Juncker's intelligence, we're not even going to go there. Bear in mind that this is the same Lisbon Treaty that the Irish people voted against until we were undemocratically forced to vote again. And Juncker openly admits that there was a transfer of sovereignty from the member states to the European Union. So if that's not outrageous to you, I don't know what is, to be frank.
What's up, Jim?
But this is not the only time that
We're
Mr. Juncker
watching
has let
Ben
something like
Scallon
that
and
slip,
his
I suppose
and a diatribe about cultural Marxism.
that it's hard to keep a secret when you're tipsy all the time, but there you go. Actually, as a brief aside, I will say that I admire his ambition. It seems that he's decided to deal with Europe's wine lake all on his own, so you can't fault the man for trying. But in another off-guard moment, the unelected head of Europe said, "We decide on something, leave it lying around, and wait to see what happens. If no one kicks up a fuss because most people don't understand what's been decided,
On
we continue
Irish
step
on
by
this
step
guy?
until
I
there
don't
is
think
no
so.
turning back." These are all real quotes, by the way. These are from the Telegraph. I'll link the sources below when the video goes up online so that you can see it for yourself. But what we're seeing here is this man's idea of democracy. This is what informed consent looks like in the European Union. Regarding the referendum on the EU Constitution back in 2005, he said, "If it's yes, we say on we go. If it's a no, we say we continue." So, in other words, they will proceed whether the people of Europe want it or not. The referendum is all a farcical show to keep us placated so we feel like we have control over our countries, while the elites really just do whatever the hell they want and our vote is essentially meaningless. And we've heard that again recently, haven't we?
Oh, possibly,
what's it we're
Jim.
saying now
About that
regarding
specific
Brexit,
topic,
that the UK
possibly.
needs to
Yeah,
have
I
a
think we
second
did.
referendum, a so-called people's referendum, as if the first one wasn't
Jesus.
somehow. Very
Hasn't, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't Brexit been a fucking disaster for the UK ever since they decoupled from the EU? I don't know that for fact. I don't know what the effects have been post, but from what I gather, it hasn't really been this, since Brexit, there hasn't been this huge resurgence of, English domination on the world stage or something. It's just like the same problems occurred. Like nothing changed. It was just like kind of this meaningless cultural touchstone for a lot of people.
unusual that the side backed by billionaire elitists like George Soros is the side of the people.
Oh,
while
yeah,
the side
cultural
that got the
Marxism,
majority
mentioning
vote isn't.
Soros. Yeah,
But,
this
there
is
you go.
just-
That's the world we live in, I suppose. So then, returning to Mr. Juncker, the man with the 5-year plan,
What is this?
let's consider what we've just heard.
Wait.
So he admits openly
Jim, did you
that
send
the
me the
EU is trying to
Zarathustra
deceive the people of
serpent
Europe,
video?
and that there was a
Why do I
transfer
feel
of
like-
national sovereignty from the member states.
Because I do remember we had somebody, what's it called? I remember I had somebody in chat constantly want me to watch this dude's videos. Did you get a new name? Are you that same guy? Sent this before. I've definitely been sent this before. Because I remember this guy's channel. Fucking gave me brainworms a bit. Oh, that's why. Okay, Gaines. Okay, that's why. Makes sense. Okay, yeah, you have. Okay. You didn't tell me that you changed your name again. So many accounts. I don't know how you have the time to make so many emails.
States to Brussels, all while pretending that there wasn't. If the EU is so good for us, why all the lies? Because he knows that the people of Europe love their nations and don't want to be part of a European superstate. He knows that the people of Europe value their national sovereignty and don't want their countries to become mere vassals of the European empire that he's constructing.
What's
That
the
is Mr.
European
Juncker's
Empire?
true vision of Europe, and that is the Europe that we are moving towards as we speak.
Like, what was the status quo under the EU? It's just everybody kind of like what? Because like some of the biggest advantages of being part of the EU is all of the is like the open trade and also the free movement between countries, which really helps, as far as I can tell, with commerce and with like the actual economies in each country. Like the ability for each country to like people to go like in and out constantly and everything else kind of creates this cohesive, I like, it seems like a little bit more of like a cohesive society, even if you're going, because I knew people whose parents lived in Italy, and then they would travel up what the fuck is above Italy? I don't know my European geography. Europe. Isn't it just... Wait, yeah, I thought it was... Wait a minute. What the fuck? Okay, yeah, where the fuck did they say? Because they lived in Italy. Did they go to Switzerland? Fuck, I don't remember what country they said they went to. Let's just pretend Austria. Why is it Switzerland doesn't get... I'm assuming, I don't remember, but I'm assuming it was Switzerland because I remember it was to the north and it wasn't Austria. But yeah, they traveled from Italy to Switzerland for work and then back every single day. And it was like, it wasn't this big issue. It wasn't this like huge complication. It was rather simple, which like I think is pretty fucking cool. And probably, again, is really good for trade and commerce.
Now, I have to take one part of that back. I said that people in Europe value their national sovereignty, and that's, of course, a generalization. It really depends who you're talking about.
Wow, Jim.
If you're talking about, say,
really,
Micheál Martin
I really appreciate
of
that.
the Fianna Fáil party, then maybe national sovereignty isn't so much of a priority. I'm sure we're all familiar with that infamous speech he gave where Micheál said that Ireland wanted nothing to do with a quote-unquote backward-looking idea of sovereignty, and that he remained absolutely committed to the ideals of the European Union. Well, actually, he said Ireland remained absolutely committed to the European Union. I put the question to you now. Does Micheál Martin speak for the people of this country? I didn't think so either. Here is a man who can't lead his own...
What I find funny is this guy's vindicated by this group, even though this is a self-selecting group of people that would show up to an anti-whoever that person is speech. Like, he stands there and goes, look at all these people who agree with me. It's like, you've self-selected a group of people that were going to agree with you, you fool.
Own party, yet who presumes to lead the nation. A man whose shameful betrayal of the traditions of Fianna Fáil on the 8th Amendment alone make him morally unfit to hold any office in the state. I think somebody should inform Mick that we did away with kings quite some time ago in this country, and that he doesn't speak for the people of Ireland. We do. Irish sovereignty is gone when the people of Ireland say it's gone. And let me tell you, that will be a cold day in hell. It's not...
Isn't every day in hell cold? Isn't that the thing? I remember learning that.
It's
in
not
school.
up to turncoat TDs, spineless Shanadors, or any Bolsheviks in Brussels. This is the very same crowd who've just signed away our neutrality with this new PESCO agreement right under our noses. So now, just earlier this week, we have both Merkel and Emmanuel Macron, the French soybean-in-chief.
Again, see? It's like the whole soy thing. I don't get it. Oh, yeah, this was from 4 years ago. Yeah.
Both calling for the creation of a true European army. Somebody should tell Mr. Macron that just because you're a French manless, that does not make you Napoleon Bonaparte.
Whoa, funny.
This is the same man who got caught spending 40 grand on makeup. That's actually true. You can look that up. He's also compared himself...
He's also, like, the leader of an entire country. One, like, what? Rather large... Like, what is France? Like... 3 times the size of Ireland. Like, yeah, that's makeup department for presidents is not zero.
To Jupiter, the Roman king of the gods.
One of the main presenters of Crypt Media. Actually, I'm kind of curious. Okay, wait. Crypt Media. Oh dear. Oh, this looks like one of those
T-Shock.
Grip Media, more like Gripe Media. Am I right? Let's see. Tip of the iceberg regarding... Oh, my God. Sound of Freedom. Yeah, he's just like an American. Yeah. Message from the editor. Don't care. Irish minister. Definition of woman is not relevant. That film. Yeah, really. Let's see. Can't answer a simple question. Irish minister pressed on misinformation. Can I get, what is this? The Irish government is acting like citizenship doesn't matter. Imported voters. What is this?
The Irish government helping asylum seekers to vote in elections is a self-serving power grab disguised as a good deed. This is Ben Scallon, and you're watching Gripped Media.
Oh boy. Jeez. You know, not that I have a lot of room to talk, but someone's looking a bit more full these days, 4 years later.
Yeah. Before we start the video, please consider signing.
Nope, shut up. Don't do that. Don't do any of that ever.
The people have failed. We must elect a new people. And this is a sentiment which the Irish government seems to have taken very much to heart. Last week, it was revealed that the Irish state is issuing guides in foreign languages, including in Ukrainian, to inform asylum seekers how to vote in the local elections next year.
Cool.
As reported by the Irish Times, Ukrainian language guide to Irish local elections published. Ukrainian language...
Wait a minute. So, Ukrainian refugees coming into the country, and the local governments or whoever has decided, well, they're going to be living here. We might as well give them some kind of voice in our elections. What, like, I would love to hear the rebuttal of like, well, they shouldn't be allowed to. It's like, well, if they're living here now, why shouldn't they? Oh, because they're not from here, possibly? Like, that's kind of the obvious, like, they're not from here, they shouldn't get to vote, which that they live here, meaning they're part of this society, part of these communities. They should probably have some kind of say in them, right? But I'm assuming this is some of that good old-fashioned replacement rhetoric that's very popular here in the United States for white people. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming this person probably doesn't see Ukrainians, or maybe, like, again, since it might be Irish nationalism, it's like one of those, they're not Irish, they shouldn't get to vote. But again, that's just if you're like, by that logic, then no immigrant should be allowed to vote.
Guides on local elections in Ireland and getting on the electoral register have been published as the number of potential eligible voters among refugees from Ukraine tops 55,500.
Wait, that's it? Wait, what's the population of Ireland? I'm sorry. Ireland population. Jamaican, what the fuck? A population of 5 million, and we're worried about, go back to that. We're worried about potentially 55, not even 60,000? What? Spread across the entire nation of 50 million? Fucking spare me. God.
Ireland and getting on the electoral register.
Is that like 10 to 15% like in total is of the immigration population?
Have been published as the number of potential eligible voters among refugees from Ukraine tops 55,500.
Is
the
Dublin
next
very
local election
diverse?
is due to take place
I've never
next
been to Ireland,
June,
sadly.
and the guide
Heard
explains
cool.
how every person over the age of 18 is entitled to register to vote in the area.
Due to take place next June, the guide explains how every person over the age of 18 is entitled. Wait, what? But that's wait. Is the bar for election that you're 18? That's it? It's just you're 18. You have 10% of the total population immigrant. Okay, and yeah, and like this specific group is probably not even close to like. I'd love to know what percentage of that group is is the Ukrainian people he's talking about. Dublin is shit. Oh, okay. Next local election is due to take place next year. But yeah, wait a minute. As long as you're 18, then you can just register to vote? That sounds like freedom, baby. What's the problem here? This sounds like democracy.
Where they ordinarily live to elect county and city councillors. Some 91,464 people from Ukraine have fled to Ireland in the wake of Russia's war on their country as of last weekend. Of these, 55,567 are aged 18 and over and will be eligible to vote if they stayed in Ireland and registered in advance of polling day, which will be on an as yet undecided date between June 6th and June 9th, 2024. The Department of Housing has also published...
So let's be clear. There are Ukrainian refugees moving to the country, and as long as they register before voting day, then they're allowed to vote. So what's the problem? What's bad about that? I think that's really good. As someone who likes democracy, again, I think that's pretty fucking based. Like, hey, you've relocated here because you're coming from a literally like war-torn country now. Yeah, as long as you're 18, as long as you pass that eligibility bar of turning 18 in our country, you should have a voice in it. You're going to be staying here. And sentiment came about when Ukrainian refugees, Irish people on housing lists, and we have a big housing crisis. I mean, but that's one of those cases, isn't it? Like, I can totally understand that, but wouldn't that also be like, these people are fleeing an entire nation? I would suppose that to the extent that there is a housing crisis, there are people in Ireland who live with their parents, who live with family. So it's like those people have somewhere to go. These people don't have connections. It is housing or nothing for them. So yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, but also that would be the case where like you want to put pressure on your government to, I don't know, maybe like fix the housing crisis problem. Like the problem isn't, oh, there are some immigrants who get housing. The problem is you didn't build enough housing. Like the housing crisis did not suddenly appear when immigrants showed up. It had been there already. It's kind of the same here in the US. Our housing crisis is fucking astonishingly bad. But says fair in housing policy rather than, yeah, exactly. Like a failure in immigration policy is that like you didn't build up your housing ahead of time. It's poor planning before, not poor planning after.
Guides in Arabic, Romanian, Polish, Russian, Chinese, and many more languages. Cool. Though it may come as a surprise to many people.
God forbid somebody speak one of those languages while in Ireland to this guy.
This has actually been a policy in Ireland for years, believe it or not. Anyone ordinarily living in Ireland can vote in local elections whether or not they're a citizen. Refugees were given the right to vote in Irish local elections in 2004. In fact...
2004? Jesus, this is incredibly base, by the way. But, yeah, it seems like you're a bit late to the train, buddy. Ireland already solved the democracy problem. A thriving democracy, if I've ever seen one. Yeah, no, what's funny to me is like, yeah, this has been like this since 2004. So what's the problem now?
Non-nationals can even run for election if an asylum seeker wanted to.
Yeah, didn't Ireland? Okay, again, this is because I watched Dairy Girls recently. Didn't Ireland also take in Ukrainian refugees back in the 90s and stuff? Like that was like a whole episode of that show. Like that was like a whole. Wasn't that already like a thing? Like this doesn't feel like anything new, really.
Run for the locals next year, they'd be perfectly entitled to do so legally, provided they're over the age of 18. But while this policy is not new, this upcoming election will be unique due to the unprecedented number of asylum seekers the government has parachuted into the country in the last year.
Yeah, that's true.
There are now far more alleged refugees arriving into Ireland than we would have seen previously, with a much bigger potential to sway the vote. The government's own civil servants expect 180,000 refugees to be here by the end of the year. Now, at this point, one has to ask...
Again, I'm just lucky that I watched that show recently, and I know that, but again... I'm so what's it called, bereft of an understanding of Irish politics.
How an asylum seeker who isn't even able to speak the language of the host country
this is all new information.
Make an informed decision about who to vote for? Is there
whoa! I'm sorry. I didn't realize that democracy and eligibility to voting require you to be knowledgeable of anything. I thought democracy was all about giving people a decision to lead their own, to actually make decisions in their society and in their country, not gatekeep that behind, I don't know, poll tests, behind, like this sort of nonsense, this sort of talk of like, oh, well, they only like moved here. Do they really know anything? Are they really familiar with the issues? I don't know. Maybe they met an Irishman and they had a conversation about it. Like, this isn't how democracy works. You either take everybody or nobody. That is not how this works at all. Like, this nonsense talking point of like, oh, well, do they really know, are they really aware, or do they even know anything? Do they know the culture? No, all that is bullshit. That is just the same. In America, we had a version of that. It was called poll testing in the South. And it was just a way for white racists to disenfranchise black people by being like, look, they're not smart enough to know what they're voting on, so they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Like, no, it's fucking bullshit. All that is anti-democratic sentiment.
Vote not uninformed almost by definition. For example, I don't speak...
Okay, random question. Ask many Americans. Opinion on the IRA? I don't know enough. I genuinely don't. There's like a part of like... I any answer I give, yay or nay, I just don't have enough awareness. I really don't. Like, so many Americans are like, love the IRA. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like, I know the IRA is in strong opposition to the crown, right? Yeah. Which, base, that's cool. I like that. I like opposition to imperialism, but that is, and like, obviously bombings, shit like that. But I don't know. I like, any answer I give would be incredibly misinformed. So I don't want to really give one. I don't want to say yay or nay, because I just don't know enough. I would have to really read up on it. Originally IRA based, then turned into terrorist organization. Yeah, and that's what I've also heard. But that's one of those things where coming from the United States, you can't always trust our categorization of terror organizations. Unfortunately, I was born in '92, so I distinctly remember how how kind of different the IRA, or at the very least, like the way terror organization was used pre 9/11 and how it was used after in American politics and in American, just in America in general. And like after 9/11, God, like everything got turned into terror organizations, and like some of it I'm sure was justified, but I also have no doubt that a lot of it wasn't, or at the very least some of it wasn't. So it's just, yeah. Americans seem to have the vision of liberation against the Brits sort of thing and forget about the whole bombing thing. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Those are like the two things I know, is that it's liberation against the Brits, and they committed like public bombings that led to the death of civilians. So it's kind of like, right. I can't, like I said, I'd have to learn more. I would have to learn more.
One word of Slovenian.
We don't sadly learn, at least here in the United States, our international history is not great. Like, you get there's a lot of emphasis on World War II. I remember, like, a lot of emphasis on World War II, and a lot of emphasis on like U.S. history, obviously, but like world history, I feel like I got a better education on like world history from like ye olde days, like medieval times type shit. Like, I feel like we got a better history on that, or at least I did, than more modern stuff. The more modern stuff, I like, it might have just been the teacher, because I really like my World History 1 teacher, not as much my World History 2 teacher. And again, a lot of World History 2, or at least like whatever is more modern history in the United States, a big chunk of that is World War II. And even then, it's not, I wouldn't say it's very good at, I think like like, I wish we took a stronger approach or a closer approach to Germany in terms of studying the Nazis. We kind of just learn Nazi bad. That's kind of it. And like, you know, obviously that is true, but you don't really learn what fascism is from a like academic level. You just kind of know that they're fascists and we are not fascists, allegedly. Yeah, not knowing some Americans. Yeah, yeah. People don't. It's hard to say you don't know something, because I think, especially doing this, there's sometimes an expectation to have an answer or know everything, because somebody will show up and go, haha, you don't even know this thing. And it's just, I don't know what I don't know. I didn't learn about the Tulsa Race Massacre until the Watchmen show came out. And like, that's really shitty. A lot of people didn't know that. And you know, you don't know stuff, you don't know stuff. I don't claim to be an expert on everything. But yeah.
Can possibly make an informed decision about who to vote for? Is their vote not uninformed almost by definition? For example, I don't speak one word of Slovenian. I couldn't name a Slovenian political party if my life depended on it. I don't understand anything about those local issues, their culture, or their...
Sorry, we have to go back just because I don't know what he's quite talking about. In Ireland, one of the things we had to learn was what made, let's say, communism and fascism as they were. Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah, like kind of all we learn is that like Nazis were fascists, Russians were communists, and that's kind of it. You kind of just learn the like, this side is made up of these people, but we're not really gonna like go into ideology. I'd be shocked, I don't know, but I'd be shocked if I even heard Karl Marx's name mentioned when covering World War II and like Russian history leading into the both world wars. I'd be surprised if I even I'd be surprised. Like, oh no, I actually remember this really, really vividly. In our textbooks, we had like a I remember we had a whole section on Russian history and shit. And there was, I shit you not, a blurb on the margins. It was maybe a paragraph long on Karl Marx, and that was it. That's all it was. It was one paragraph in the margins with a picture of Homeboy, but that was like it. And like, it didn't like, even though somebody whose ideas have lasted all the way up until now, and who like arguably has impacted like world thought like so much longer than some prominent members in Russian history. Like, it's just crazy how you don't even hear any of that shit. It's just nuts.
Of the host country can possibly make an informed decision about who to vote for.
Sorry, but have
is
you
their
seen
vote
the
not
video
uninformed almost by definition? For example, I don't speak
I
one
remember we
word
watched
of
a bit of it, Jim.
Slovenian. I couldn't name a Slovenian political party if my life depended on it.
Okay,
At this
cool.
point, much bigger potential to sway the vote. The government's own civil servants expect 180,000 refugees to be here by the end of the year. Now,
yeah, which means they're not going to be voting. Like, there's only going to be a portion of that 55,000 that's going to be voting.
Now, at this point, one has to ask how an asylum seeker who isn't even able to speak the language of the host country can possibly make an informed decision about who to vote for.
They translate it. What's funny is like, yeah, all you would need to do is translate all the text and let them read it. They're fucking they can read. You just need to translate it to their language, and then they can figure it out.
Their vote not uninformed almost by definition. For example, I don't speak one word of Slovenian. I couldn't...
yes, and it's always, the uninformed now will always be uninformed. It's not like they could, I don't know, learn a little bit. They could inform themselves. But to this person, it's not about, to this guy, Ben, it's not about that like any Slovenian, as an example, could ever learn Irish politics. It's that he doesn't want them involved in Irish politics. This is the kind of like obvious racism and weird xenophobia that you get from these kinds of guys, where it's like, oh yeah, if you're Slovenian and we and we translated all of our electoral what's the word, information and like, you know, everything else, you still wouldn't get it. It's like, why wouldn't they get it? It's literally translated for them, that they can, that like once you translate it to the proper language, they have what you don't think they vote in their own country? They've never voted before? That's like not a concept they're familiar with? Like, no, it's ridiculous. The idea that like, oh well, how are they gonna make decisions on tax rates or tax changes? I think they know how numbers work. Like, the fuck?
Name a Slovenian political party if my life depended on it.
Yeah, maybe you should fucking learn, idiot.
About those local issues, their culture, or their history.
So should you be disallowed from
tomorrow,
voting?
Does anyone think that I'd be able to cast an informed vote on the issue of the day? Well, obviously not.
Well, the real question is, that the Slovenian government respect your ability to educate yourself? That's actually the real question. If the Slovenian government is like, we think that you can figure it out and you can learn and you should be able to still have a say since you live here. That's called, again, thriving democracy.
Irish voter wandering into a Slovenian election would be incredibly easy to manipulate because they wouldn't know any better than what the last political
importing vote.
You'd be voting blindly on things that you had absolutely no knowledge of and just hoping for the best. And that wouldn't be your fault, of course. Nobody expects you to be an expert in South Korean or Estonian politics.
Also keep in mind how many Irish people are experts in Irish politics. Like, same with the US. There are so many people who don't vote and people who are, quite frankly, not, I don't think, like, knowledgeable enough to vote. But I would never support an effort to take away their suffrage. Like, that's kind of how democracy works. You get people who have a lot of it. Like, we have terms for this. It's called low information voters, especially here in the US. There are tons of low information voters. People back in 2004, I remember this. My mom wouldn't vote for John Kerry, the Democratic candidate for president in 2004, because he just looked weird. Like, to her, she was like, I don't know, he just gives me weird vibes. I just don't really like him very much. Even though, like, a vote for George Bush is a vote for a, is a vote for an utter fucking moron. Somebody who should have never ascended to the presidency. Somebody who's utterly unprepared for any political office. But, you know, sometimes people just don't vote on information. They don't vote on logic. Sometimes people just vote on vibes. And, like, we can absolutely accommodate that. It's called broad democracy. And also, that's, at the end of the day, the only free way for societies to actually choose their own path forward. Like, what you're asking for, or what you're arguing, is that somebody who's not knowledgeable or somebody of a certain knowledge threshold shouldn't be allowed to vote. And you know what that ends up turning into? You know which group of people, and I'll speak for the US, you know which group of people would fall under that knowledge threshold here in the United States? Republican Party voters. Republican Party voters would be the most harmed in something like this. And no doubt that this guy is somebody who would, if they were in America, vote for the Republican Party. At the end of the day, voter tests are only a threshold for the opposite group to those picking the questions. Meaning, if you would like to do this whole, you're too, you don't know enough. You don't know how this works enough. You don't do this, you don't do that. Well, guess what? When your opposition comes into power, say goodbye to your suffrage because you don't know enough. Because you're some dumb fuck Floridian voter that doesn't know, I don't fucking know, something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Some random fact about governance. Because you don't know that, but somebody in New York might know it, or somewhere else. There goes your vote. No. None of this, it's nonsense. If you believe in democracy, you believe in all people having the right to vote. It's either everybody or nothing on democracy. And by the way, I feel the same way about prisoners. I support prisoner voting. I think those people are a part of the society, same with everybody else. They should be allowed to vote. Especially because if I remember, I'm trying to think, I'm pretty sure felons don't get to vote in certain states. after they get out. The minute you're out, you should have all of your rights restored to you, except for your ability to own firearms. That's one where we can't have that, sadly. But in terms of your suffrage, absolutely. Holy shit, turnout of 78%. That's crazy.
Politics.
For us, I think it's like somewhere in the 40s.
For not knowing those things. But it wouldn't mean that the government probably shouldn't be encouraging you to vote when you likely haven't got a clue what you're actually voting for. And yet apparently...
Also, I think the people who, I think Ukrainians or recent refugees should be able to make that decision for themselves.
The Irish government wants people
I think
from
they're
all
aware
over the world
of
who don't even speak English,
of whether
let alone
they
Irish,
think they should
to
be
vote
voting
in their droves by the tens of thousands to decide the future fate of our local democracy. It is actual madness. But in fact, it's worse than madness, because madness implies that it's just senseless. So far as I'm concerned, this is also a cynical and Machiavellian ploy by the government to retain power under the guise of being inclusive, whatever that means. Because after all, just think about it. It's pretty logical to assume that many asylum seekers will feel indebted to the government, whether an individual is genuinely fleeing war.
10% lower than usual? I wonder why that was.
Or falsely claiming asylum just to improve their standing in life. Either way, the government has done those people a favor that they likely won't soon forget, because who gave them their brand new modular homes and luxurious hotel rooms? Well, the government did. And so who are these asylum seekers going to reward with their vote when the election comes around, most likely? Well, the government parties that have given them their new life, right? That's just common sense. And bear in mind that this is coming after all the backlash to open borders seen during the East Wall protests. So in effect, what the government has done here is import tens of thousands of likely voters as the governing parties consistently drop in the polls with native Irish citizens. They are bringing in a new electorate, knowing that many of those people will likely vote for the establishment and the status quo that has benefited them so much. It's outrageous. It's not the fault of refugees and asylum seekers that this is happening, of course. They didn't choose our ridiculous voting system. But this is a fundamentally anti-democratic sleight of hand by the government that should be...
Anti-democratic to let everybody vote. Crazy that, huh? It's... What's the thing? I always avoid using this because every time I say the word Orwellian, my brain just goes to Sarah Palin saying it. But that's basically what we're describing here. He's describing democracy as anti-democracy, because at the end of the day, he understands that proper democracy doesn't favor him and doesn't put him and his politics into power. What democracy does is actually work against this person. So when the government decides, hey, we're going to give more people suffrage, he goes, ooh, I don't know about that, Chief. If you give more people suffrage, that's not gonna, they're not gonna vote the way that I want them to vote, because I don't know why he's Southern either. Just go with it. But they're not gonna vote the same way that I do, and I think that's unfair. I think people should have to vote the way that I have that I vote if they come into the country more recently. It's just not fair to me to have more people vote, even though every single year more people vote because of people growing to be 18. So it's always like, what do you mean? Like there's always new people voting every single year. Why is this group somehow less eligible than other groups?
Be loudly called out and condemned for what it is, a self-serving power grab.
Deal with it.
Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing.
And keep in mind, they need to do this whole thing of it's a power grab, because they do this in the United States too. Oh, it's a power grab. Oh, the Democrats are buying voters. Well, no, actually. The Democrats, and in this case, the Irish government that is allowing people to vote once they're 18, regardless of their citizenship status. No, what they are doing is expanding suffrage to all people in the country. And what they are doing is good policy. You see, good policy leads to, shocker here, better performance politically. So... it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, this guy's racism and xenophobia is getting in the way of him being successful in politics. And he just doesn't really recognize that, which is funny, just in and of itself. Anyway, let's see. Right, Jim had a video for us, from Adam and Sitch, apparently, with apparently BRB. Cool. What is this? This is about Jim. Intro this for me. What is this about? Peter Boghossian. Wokeness has replaced Christianity. I don't know how. Okay, that's an interesting one. Wokeness has replaced Christianity. I'm intrigued how they got to that one. Anyway, let's take a look, shall we? Peter Boghossian, something like that, is a secular center liberal professor. Interesting. Sounds like my kind of guy, I guess.
Idea was that if you could just get rid of a superstition or the stranglehold that the superstition had, not only on people's cognitions but on our institutions.
Why are we playing the song?
Then you would pave the way for a new era of enlightenment, human flourishing.
An epistemology is not a one-for-one for a moral system.
Yeah, so I'll push back on that if I may.
Okay, yeah.
The reason that isn't true is because
we talked a little bit before the stream about this idea that you have of a substitution hypothesis. Is that your idea? Did you come up with that, or?
You know, I've been trying to figure that out. I don't know. I thought it was either mine, James Lindsay, or Jordan Peterson's, and I asked Jim if it was his idea.
Wait a minute. I'm a bit. Wait a minute. Those were a group of people that give me just a bit of, what is this person's name? I'll pull this while it plays. It's a bit of a...
He said no, but I don't know. I'm sure someone's thought of something analogous.
Well,
maybe
what is it?
I coined it. I don't know.
Can you explain it to us?
So it's the idea that as one ideology fades, another will take its place. So there's a lot to unpack there.
When one ideology fades? Okay, so I guess I'd need an example. Like first of all, like any religion has been around for thousands of years. Like any kind, like socialism as a ideology has been around since what, the 1800s? Like, I don't. Okay, we'll just keep going.
So every culture is many philosophers have written about this, like Alistair McIntyre. Every philosopher is subject to there's a dominant value of every age, whether it's Christianity. In Homer's time, it was strength, and Voltaire's time was, humor.
Wait, strength and then Christianity? No, what? Wait. Christianity is so broad. Strength isn't an ideology. That's okay. I don't know how you could think of strength as an ideology, though. That's literally that's rather objective. It's an objective measurement.
Now it's wokeism. And the substitution hypothesis is the idea that as one dominant ideology or dominant moral orthodoxy fades, another will come in to take its place. So it's like the Game of Thrones is a good way to think about it. The only reason that people...
I know Game of Thrones.
stopped believing... the only reason that people have new gods is because they stopped believing in the old gods. And so the idea now is...
Does he mean
as Christianity has fallen, wokeism has taken its place. And many atheists are now... Most kind of popular conventional atheists are now woke or in the orbit of woke ideology. And so is that relationship necessary? That, in other words, is there a kind of a cyclical historical phenomenon of one ideology replacing another? Was that a clear explanation?
Yeah, kind of.
Not really.
I mentioned before the stream that we had talked, I don't know, maybe a year ago now. And I had kind of come to this conclusion myself before it kind of started catching steam that.
Oh, you created the substitution hypothesis. That's why you asked this question.
Obviously. Well, no, we've even, Sitch and I have even talked about this on the show. I have a very Heidian way of looking at religion, as in religion is this thing that evolves over time.
Okay, let's see. So it looks like he believes that the regressive left have taken over academia, but also that the Republican Party is the most powerful anti-science political movement in the world. So, previous hoax paper. Interesting. Wait. Do they mean James Lindsay? Oh, no. Grievance Studies Affair, also referred to as the Sokol Squared scandal. Mojian, James Lindsay, and Helen Plucko submitted a series of hoax academic papers for peer review to journals in academic field, which they termed Grievance Studies, Race, Gender, Feminist, and Sexuality Studies, which they believed were characterized by low scientific standards. Among the 20 papers submitted, 7 were subsequently accepted. Interesting.
And all of these cultural adaptations, they either work and deliver communities that thrive, or they destroy communities. Mm-hmm. So I understand Christianity from that evolutionary perspective, and even in the days of the atheist community, the anti-theist community, the God delusion was.
And like the atheist community get really big, and like
up. There was Sam Harris was blowing up
the
the
20
the atheists.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the 2010 era, the pre Gamergate, that kind of online atheist movement. I remember a bit of that. Being somebody who watched a lot of House, back in the day, and being very outwardly, or not outwardly, being very, I think, irritatingly atheist. I remember that time, man. Not a good look.
The 4 horsemen of the anti-theists were blowing up because a lot of it happened during September 11th, which was perceived by a lot of people as, religion gone amok.
Mm-hmm. Funnily enough, they only see that when it's like Muslim religion.
Was curious if
when it's Islam,
a lot of the
it's like, oh my God, look at
the making were actually feasible. Because if you look at religion from an evolutionary perspective, you've got something that's evolved over time and has kind of been shaped by the social environment. And when you're trying to create a kind of culture of just being evidence-based, I'm not necessarily sure that it will work. And it seems like you had a lot more, you thought this was a lot more promising endeavor at one point in your life. Can you kind of speak to that, your transition?
Yeah,
well, definitely
my transition.
Speed.
Speak to my transition. So the idea was that if you could just get rid of a superstition or the stranglehold that the superstition had, not only on people's cognitions, but on our institutions, then you would pave the way for a new era of enlightenment, human flourishing. Mm-hmm. The question is whether or not superstitious belief, or patenticity, as Michael Shermer calls it, agenticity, the belief that there are patents everywhere, the belief that there are agents everywhere, is that the default
paranoia
state? And if it is the default state,
so I don't think you get away from. I don't think like you can get away from superstition. I don't think humanity's we're never gonna rid ourselves of superstition. I don't think that's a thing. I think that's a thing that's inherent to us as like a species. Being, coming up with nonsensical answers for things, like, there was a time where we thought lightning was, the gods fighting or whatever, and we thought fire was whatever. There were times when we thought where we had a very low understanding of the world, and like the idea that we're ever going to, I think ever understand everything is, I don't think we're ever going to get there. So I suppose it's not about waiting for this time when superstition goes away. You know, I think it's all about people who hold superstitious, you know, I think values, people who I think are, you know, people who are religious to a degree, and, you know, people who believe in, you know, and stuff that's not verifiable, right? Stuff that's not measurable, verifiable, scientifically, able to be proven. I think stuff like that, it's just, I think the key to that is always like not having those people fall into those as their explainers for everything. And that's really hard, because the only way that you combat that is with a, you know, people with good communication skills, reaching out to those people and like getting them to understand the limits to which their beliefs, you know, the limits to their beliefs and stuff like that. I just don't think we're ever going to get to that point. I don't think there is humans without superstition. I think it's something that we do, like the same way that we assign value to things that are unvaluable. The same way we, you know, what's the term when you kind of give something that's not alive, you know, like human traits. I'm trying to think. Like we do that. Like okay. There's a big ass teddy bear behind me, right? And like they're like humans. We see that. We see stuff like that, and we assign value and give it, like, imbue it with humanity sometimes. And I think that's just kind of a thing we do as humans. We like to see humanity in things. You know, you see an animal that kind of has a smile, you know, but like it's not really smiling. That's how its face looks. If you've seen like a frog, maybe, and you look at it and you think, oh, he's smiling at me. Well, no, he's just standing there. But, you know, we want to see ourselves, and we like to think of these other like creatures, whether they be human, non-human, alive, non-alive, you know, kind of like us. We give them traits like us, I guess. It's just, I don't know if you get away from that.
Then we need to have one more. I'm going to introduce one more variable into this conversation. Are some delusions more socially beneficial or socially efficacious than others? Another way of looking at that is, are some delusions worse than others? I mean, anybody who thinks about that for 2 seconds would realize, yes, that's true. For example, if somebody has the delusion that every single person on Earth really has a invisible sombrero on their head and they're walking around with that, that's an innocuous belief. It's a delusion. I shouldn't have said belief, but that's an innocuous delusion. But
well, unless they thought that people who wear sombreros are evil or something, then it's not really innocuous. That, like, there's no way to really measure that, right? Like, each society is going to measure, like, if you're in Italy, it's not weird to pray at the dinner table and do all of the, you know, Catholic and or Christian stuff, right? But if you're in, you know, maybe if you're in Iraq or you're in, like, you know, the Palestine, or you're in somewhere more of like a Middle Eastern country, or even you know, in like China or somewhere, it probably is a bit odd. Like, you know, you might say, well, you know, that's kind of innocuous, but it's only innocuous in our society. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
If somebody has the delusion that all left-handed people,
it's pretty subjective.
That Satan wants them to kill all left-handed people, that's clearly a far worse delusion. So the question becomes, if the substitution hypothesis is true.
There was a time when we didn't allow people to use their left hand. It was thought to be demonic or whatever.
Equal. Some delusions are worse than others. What do we do about it?
Right.
I mean, it is fascinating that a religion popped up in the middle of an anti-religious movement. That a religion popped up, right? And then all
that seems like evidence for the substitution hypothesis, especially.
Right. Yeah. And I was talking to, I won't mention the person's name, but I was talking to a very famous theist when I was in London, and I said to him, it's interesting how the people who participate in this religion don't even acknowledge it as a religion. I'm talking about secular people, atheists. They don't even see it or acknowledge it as a religion. And we talked about this. And he's like, yeah, this is terrible. It's a religion. It's a religion. And I said to him, but you're religious. You're religious. So you're criticizing other people for being religious when you yourself are religious. And that led to a fascinating conversation. Reed would have been there, but his
I'm assuming he's talking about wokeness just because that's the name of the video. But like, that's kind of fucking stupid. Because first of all, wokeness doesn't have a concrete definition. It doesn't have even a concrete set of values. You would ask 100 people what wokeness is, and you're gonna get some overlap, but you're also gonna get a lot of disparate answers. You ask a Christian what a Christian is, you're gonna get a lot of overlap. Obviously, there's you have your Protestants and you have your Catholics, but you're going to generally land on a lot of the same things. What is wokeness? I don't think has a strong enough definition to even begin to call it a religion.
His brother derailed that entire trip for us. He was getting married.
Yeah, Reed, I obviously know you from the street epistemology community. And I don't know if you'd classify yourself as an anti-theist. I mean, you and I are both huge fans of Haidt. So do you want to, where are you at these days as far as this substitution hypothesis goes?
I think it is the case that culture evolves, moral orthodoxies change depending on what ideas get propagated in the culture over time. What is the alternate hypothesis, that one moral orthodoxy will just stay the same for all of time? I don't think that's possible.
Yeah,
knowledge evolves, including moral.
Yeah, and not that that's a bad definition, but I don't even think I would it's just that there's no definition. It's dumb to talk about wokeness, I think. It's just dumb. If you want to say a real ideology, by all means, but wokeness is just
as long as there's conjecture and criticism happening in culture, hopefully it evolves in a good way, based towards moral truth and just regular knowledge. So
moral
I expect
truth.
culture to keep evolving and us to be less wrong about basic facts of the universe and basic moral facts. We can just keep talking about it and finding better ways of living a good life, and I expect that to keep going.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for the substitution hypothesis, which is
can't wait to hear
it's
this.
not like it's people on the right who we generally classically would have thought of as like religious and Christian who have kind of become woke, which is what we're kind of talking about, like woke replacing Christianity or some other belief system. It seems to be it's primarily or just only people on the left that have
What do they mean replacing Christians aren't Christian, especially in the United States, most Christians vote liberal. The loud evangelical strain is rather small in this country. So I'm not even sure which group they're even referring to.
Or this kind of new woke religion.
No.
Which were you don't agree with that? No.
Many religious people are woke, and there are many religious ceremonies that have included elements of wokeism.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that
also,
I don't want to interrupt you, but we also at some point have to include in this conversation how
it's also one of those things what's a ceremony and what's a ritual and what's a routine, because each one of those, a ceremony, it has mostly neutral but could have negative connotations. A ritual generally has negative connotations, and a routine doesn't. A routine is rather neutral in terms of its its valuation. So it's always if you use very specific words that are loaded negatively, it tells me that you're trying to communicate this thing is bad.
Concept of what it means to flourish for an individual in a community is changed by the
I'm not really sure,
but please continue.
Mostly Adam and Sitch and two other guys talking about wokeness and how it's a religion, even though, again, religions have tenets and a lot of things that I think are pretty unique. I think it's really stupid to compare them.
Well, so even in the religious places where because I know, and James talked about this a lot, where there is a lot of woke Christianity stuff, and I think he even talks about how a lot of wokeness derives.
What even is woke Christianity stuff? I don't know what that means.
It still seems to be, I would imagine, that those people are still, you gave them a Haidt moral foundation test, or they took a moral compass test.
Is woke social justice giving your black slaves a Bible so that they, so that they absorb the the Protestant work ethic, is that woke because you're teaching black people to read?
They definitely would. They tend to be people on the left, not people on the right.
Yeah, I mean, you see that in Latin America with liberation theology. You see that with, So bracketing for the moment whether or not this new moral phenomenon, if the substitution hypothesis is correct, are all people equally susceptible to, you can call it a cultural bound syndrome, you could be pejorative and call it a derangement syndrome, but whatever it is, are some people with some pre-existing beliefs are more susceptible to the ideology than others. So, yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if it's more not the case that like the left had believed in nothing, and so wokeness filled the void, as opposed to the way that I look. Have you seen this? This is gonna be funny to the people in our chat. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
No.
It's just like what I really hate about this stuff, honest to God, is the specificity of all of it. Like, it's the left, it's woke, it's just like, I don't know who they're talking about, I don't know what they're talking about. It, like, I feel like this is the thing where you have to know all of the you have to know the narrative before coming into this, and this is all reinforcing your like pre-existing understanding of wokeness and Christianity, and I just feel like I feel like I have to be a certain amount, I have to be in deep enough waters to be able to see the fish that they're talking about, I guess.
Okay. No, I can't fathom such a thing. But
yeah, it's like one of the most overtly woke movies around. But there's a part in the movie where
it's made by liberals.
The Ken character decides to bring the patriarchy to Barbie Land.
Oh no, not this. Not a misunderstanding.
Become subjugated by it. And the rationale the movie gives is that since the Barbies never grew up in our society, they had no defense, no inoculation against the patriarchy, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's kind of what happened with the left, where for so many years, at least in America, the left had been erecting all these guardrails and all this gatekeeping to prevent the right-wing religious beliefs and right-wing, quote, irrational beliefs from kind of infiltrating science and culture.
What? No, I liked it. I thought it was a lot of it was fine. It was fine. There's a video. It's fine. It's fine. I liked it. It's a good movie. I think its politics are perfectly fine. Some stuff that I really liked in it, some stuff that I was like, that's fine. But I think it's a good movie. I don't know what. Go back 1 second. I lost my train of thought for a second there. I need to hear that
all
again.
These guardrails and all this gatekeeping,
right?
To prevent the right-wing religious beliefs and right-wing, quote, irrational beliefs from kind of infiltrating science.
Right. Okay, that's what it was. It was about the whole you can be Christian and be a scientist. I don't know, fuck shit. Okay, let's find out. Fucking Jesus. Percentage. Let's see. What are we thinking of scientists? Religious. According to a poll. Okay, so this is from 2009. So we don't have amazing data. But the general public is 83% believe in God, 12% who don't believe in God but do believe in a universal spirit or higher power, 4% who don't believe in anything. Looks like 1% didn't know or didn't answer. In the field of scientists, it's 33% believe in God, 18% don't but believe there's a higher spirit, and 41% don't believe in either. So the larger group believes in some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of like spiritual belief. Yeah, like I feel like if anything, looking at this chart right here, the general public's a lot less split than like the scientific community. The scientific community is actually really I think distributed a lot more just a little bit more like, look at this: agnostic 2, atheist 2%, Jews 2%, 12% nothing in particular, 6 other religion, 28 evangelical Protestant, 23 mainline Protestant, 24 Catholic. Whereas instead in scientists, you have like a way bigger, like obviously atheists is a lot bigger, but you get like a much bigger spread here. I just think that's bullshit, along with just being, there's nothing stopping you as a scientist from being, from being religious. It's not, there is no like barrier to entry. It's just people who are religious don't tend to pursue as much scientific study because they don't need it. Their explanation is in their books, which it's fine. That's perfectly fine. But that's not because there's a gatekeep. It's because it's not, they don't need those answers.
And culture, and they had been so concerned about it coming from the right that essentially when like the anti-liberal leftists came from behind, they just had no defenses. They're completely caught unprepared for this.
Yeah, maybe that plays a small role.
For the record, I think Barbie was actually like pretty smart, but it presented a lot of it in like this very, but like I noticed a lot of it was very like BuzzFeed feminism, but I actually think it was a lot smarter than a lot of that. And I think it was also calling that out as not really being adequate to solve the problems that we have in terms of gender equality in this country.
But remember, traditional leftists, it's certainly not even traditional, even when I was growing up, the left was always for free speech. The left was for open inquiry. The left was, not the far left, of course, but the left was for...
I'd love to know what this person thinks of the far left.
They wanted debates. I just watched, I think it was a Netflix special. I'm almost finished with it.
I know he's not going to do that. The left won't debate. Fucking spare me.
About their
anybody can basically show up on this show.
So the left today wants different things, but one of the things they have always traditionally wanted was disputation, debate, argumentation, etc. And now the left has been paresthetized by wokeism, and they don't want any of those things. A friend of mine was telling me, this is anecdotal, but I think it speaks to something. A friend of mine made a joke, and this person was offended by the joke, and now she won't even speak to him. And they were friends, like she won't even speak to him because of the joke. They won't even.
Wait, so an interpersonal interaction, and that's supposed to represent the entire left? I thought this person is supposed to be an intellectual or something, or a philosopher. He should know that anecdotes are really, really bad examples, and really bad metrics for coming to political determinations.
And he said, well, why don't we go out and have dinner and talk about it? She's having none of it. So there is this kind of moral purity that both the right and the left.
Oh, I actually learned that recently. Yeah. I was watching a, I forget which video it was. It was I think it was a Legia Miller video. Really, really good channel if you want like some good like history type content. She does really good work. I'll drop her channel actually.
But the difference now is that there is,
if I can find it real quick,
an allergy to any kind of conversation about objections to basic stances and positions.
Do you think that the left being, so in favor of free speech and free debate and all these ideas, at least in the past,
Hi there.
you think
My
that was
name's Leisha. I'm a
intrinsic
real-life lawyer on a
I don't know, like left-wing thought or left-wing moral philosophy, or is it just kind of a response to the right kind of controlling culture in America?
Right controlling culture in America.
Grab bag, it's a mix and match. You just reach your hand in there and you come out over time. And I think that when the right controlled many of our institutions, and now the left controls most of our institutions, certainly most of our legacy institutions, and the left will be singing quite a different tune if and when the pendulum swings the other way. Then they'll be the ones clamoring. Like right now, the right was never clamoring when I was a kid. They wanted to ban Dungeons and Dragons. They wanted to ban, the right-wing Democrats like
basically
Al Gore and his wife Tipper Gore wanted to ban certain songs, and So no, I don't. I think it's just you can mix and match any. Like if you could just write out on pieces of paper.
Again, he's literally just giving anecdotes. He's like, oh, Al Gore this, somebody else that. Like, it's literally single-use examples.
Beliefs and public policy prescriptions. There's no necessary
like the game or the movie
between any of those.
Or
I mean,
both.
you could find a meta narrative like, oh, free markets, and then you could say build or construct your own ideology around assembling like a Lego.
I've never
Lego superstructure.
I've never gotten to play Dungeons and
open
Dragons.
markets,
Sadly.
legalization
Nobody's
of
ever
marijuana,
invited me to do a
so
campaign.
You would have to find a meta narrative to do
Looks
that.
fun,
The
but
meta narrative of wokeness of people who
never
claim
knew
there is no
anybody who played.
meta-narrative is the idea that oppression is inherent in every system. But within that, you can just mix and match. You can still reach into the.
Well, no. What? Wait. Oppression is inherent in every system. No, it certainly is under capitalism, because capitalism necessitates a working class that does not reap the full benefits of their labor. Like, yeah, but that's not the same. No, not at all. Like, that's just arguing that there's that like all like no. What? I don't. Okay.
Grab bag and look at different ways to remediate that oppression.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, not every system. You can build, like, you usually build systems that absolutely have biases and systems that are, that favor certain groups over others. The goal is to get a system that favors a broad enough group of people and that does not discriminate against certain groups in an unfair way, such as, like, you know, racial discrimination. Like, you know, if you built a system that was just unfavorable to conservative politics, that's just that. That's, as far as I'm concerned, you know, nobody's born a conservative. You kind of learn a lot of that stuff. That's not an inherent value or anything like that. So, like, I don't know. It's just I don't know.
Hughes at all. He interviewed two brothers, Jerome Lewis and
What's
Burl.
funny is we have a friend that does that sort of stuff. We've just never gotten an invite, and we don't know if we should like invite ourselves, or like my girlfriend's known them for longer, but they've never gotten an invite, and I've never gotten an invite, and then we're kind of just like, damn, it's like the only person, but we never get an invite, so we don't know what to do. So need to make more friends, but I'm not very good at making friends in the outside world.
Lewis,
Very
recently,
small group
and
of
they
friends kind of person.
Have this
you know?
idea that essentially no one really has ideology beyond tribalism. It's just kind of like they're born
Well,
to some location or some
certainly some
stance
people
kind of
don't.
puts them in one team or the other, and they just adopt everything based on what the team does. Do you
Yeah,
agree with that? Or do
This
you,
is what happens when
That idea has been
you're
percolating
not a
for while.
socialist.
It has a long pedigree in the history of Western intellectual thought. I don't think that's true. I mean, I was thinking about the case of the American Taliban.
I'm just very
John
antisocial
Walker
to a
Williams,
degree.
Who went to Afghanistan. I
What
think
time is it? Oh, we're actually over time. Okay.
I think tribalism is certainly a part of it, and James Lindsay and I have written some stuff about this. You know, people want to.
Yeah, this guy works with James Lindsay. I don't know if I can
And
really
that
take him
tribalism.
that
I mean,
seriously.
if tribalism weren't a case, then you could look at a global map of religion around the world, and it would be like a pointillism painting, right? There'd be individuals everywhere who had different beliefs, but those religions cluster. And so it's a complex problem, but
Wait, but if you're looking over history, the ability for people to travel long distances, like back in like ye olde days, back in like horse and carriage and buggy and rickshaw type days, you didn't leave like the square 100 miles that you were born in most of the time. Most people lived in small towns and died in small towns. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, they cluster because they all don't leave because everyone stays in their regions. That's kind of how it was for a long time in history. Only recently, only really the last, I don't know, 500 to 600 years, have we really seen this expansion of something like even like Christianity. Like, first of all, this flies in the face of like Christianity's reach. What, like, if you go and look, there's a reason why Christianity reached all the way across the ocean into the Americas and back around on the other end. Like, there's a reason for that. It's not because they clustered, it's because they colonized, and those groups like eventually colonized a lot of other lands and imported their religious values. That's why, but like, that's not like, that's the evolution and expansion of like world travel. Like,
no, I don't agree with that.
Okay. I'm mainly because I have to get over, but I am done with this. because we have to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up, people. I got to get to editing and get to sleep early. I got to open tomorrow morning. We will do that. We'll probably do that. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Thursday, something like that, maybe. Who knows? No promises. All right. Well, that was fun. I'm actually kind of curious. I want to read the things. Oh, there's like no comments in this. Really, 41 comments. That's it. Title of the clip huge. Christianity was the woke movement of the Roman Empire. Interesting. I mean, yeah, and like Christianity was the woke movement of the Roman Empire. Like, does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't. That's why conversations around wokeness are just dumb. They're not worth like any of the time you spend on them because they don't mean anything. They just mean thing I don't like versus thing I think you like. Ill-defined. Underdefined, I guess. Either way, that's gonna do it for today. I hope everyone had fun. I know we just stuck to clips today. I didn't really cover a lot of like hardcore news, but after yesterday, with having like no energy, I felt bad not getting to the second half. So that's all we did. Either way, Thursday, same time as always, 7 o'clock. Do I have any notes? We'll probably go over some of the stuff we didn't get to today, but I'm sure also there will be some more news that'll have broke between now and Thursday. So I'll see you all later here. Because I should be a good little content creator. Let me see if anybody is currently streaming. I can send you guys to. That is advantageous for me in my pursuit to. What's the word? What's the thing where you socialize on a professional level? God damn it. I never. Always good seeing you, Nova. I'm trying to think. What the fuck is the word I'm thinking of? God damn it. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Oh, wait. I have to do that from this, not from there. God damn it. What is the word I'm thinking of? Guys, help me out. What's the thing where you socialize, but like, you know, as like a business thing, you know? Networking. That's what it is. Yeah, in an effort to network better. What is this? GORPS. All right, hopefully it works this time. All right, I'm sending you guys to this person that Jim wants to go see. Tell them what the fuck? What's the okay? Are they like not rateable or something? Is that like not a thing? Do I need to follow them? Is that why? I don't have to, right? Do you using any creator regardless of affiliate or partner status can send viewers to another channel, rating can be and that's not. Yeah, I don't. That's weird. Now I have to go and find them again. Let's see. Oh no. Why? Okay, that's stupid. Let's see. Here we'll do. What the hell am I watching? Oh, it's an ad. Okay. Ad break time. Cool. There we go. Okay, now will you work? Now will you work? Oh my god, they have things. You get things, man. I really need to I really need to figure out a way to give you guys things for if you follow and stuff. I just don't know how to do any of that shit. Anyway, let's go. This raid. All right, let's try this again. No, there's still well, I guess go to their channel, tell them I sent you and said hi, I guess. I don't know. For the record, I'm not like lying, by the way. I want it to be known. Like I don't want to be known as a liar here. No, not that. Like literally for whatever reason it doesn't let me. So go say hello. Tell them I sent you. Sorry, I can't raid them for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't know what the issue is on Twitch end. Either way, everyone have a lovely night. I'll see you all Thursday. Yeah. Bye-bye.